This show is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy because honestly, being a human can be exhausting. Visit betterhelp.com/allies. Hello and welcome to the Easy Allies podcast. I'll be your moderator, Brandon Jones. Joining me this week, panelists Michael Huber,
Ragnarok!
Michael Damiani,
Forspoken.
my, excuse me, fellow Wreckfest driver and co-moderator Daniel Bloodworth.
Wolverine.
There he is. And making it all happen in the control room, Isla Hink.
I was gonna say Wolverine.
You can also say Wolverine.
Silent Hill.
People who have watched that Sony conference are like, wait, what? I remember all those other ones. Distinguished guests, we are here to discuss some of the biggest headlines in video games this week. But before we do that, we must answer for the mistakes we made in last week's podcast. Some exciting stuff to talk about. We will do that very shortly. Isla, begin corrections music, please.
Boop.
In Dead Space, Nicole is Isaac's girlfriend, not his wife. That's on me. I said that.
Oh.
The correct name for a pig farm is a piggery, or piggeries, plural.
I love that.
Okay.
It said pig farm
I've
in the
never
in the
seen
wiki.
anyone
Of course,
say anything
yeah.
other than pig farm.
Piggery? I looked that one up.
Even when I've been to pig farms. Okay.
Suicide Squad Kills His Justice League was confirmed to be a DC fandom in the event's trailer. I looked at the press release. It did not mention in the press release. There was like an official list like on their website.
Oh, funny.
And so I checked. I always get nailed for just watching the trailer. In this case, I should have watched the trailer. And
funny.
not a correction, but an update. Sony is offering a free upgrade path from PS4 to PS5 for Horizon Forbidden West. But, quote, moving forward, PlayStation first-party exclusive cross-gen titles newly releasing on PS4 and PS5, both digitally and physical, will offer a $10 USD digital upgrade option from PS4 to PS5. This will apply to the next God of War and Gran Turismo 7, and any other exclusive cross-gen PS4 and PS5 title published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. End corrections music, please.
Boop.
So there we go. Good news, but no more good news forever. It's like, stop talking to us about it.
But
This
it's
is it
like,
forever.
at least, I mean, one of the things we were criticizing last week is that it was all over the place. It wasn't consistent. At least now they're like, hey, this is what we're going to do from now on. Even if it does suck a little bit.
We'll see. Do you think it's permanent? Do you think, because they just mentioned a few games,
I
but
mean,
do you think they'll stick to this for a while?
Cross-gen games are not permanent, so.
Their days are numbered.
Like one more year, you think?
Yeah, I mean, they've said,
One and
you
a
know,
half more years?
GT7 and God of War will probably be the last ones. Yeah.
I wonder, yeah.
Because it sounds like they've pretty much confirmed that Wolverine and Spider-Man 2 are not cross-gen.
Ooh, interesting. I didn't hear that about
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2, but that, okay. Because Miles, a lot of people are like, oh, is it on PS5? Is it not going to be as good as it possibly could be? Oh, boy.
Oh boy.
Again, we'll get to that in just a second. Let's play starting role. We have to help Hollywood right now. We have films that are in danger. Yes, granted, most of these films have already come out, but in a strange way, they are also in production right now. These films are screwed if we don't fill in a very specific role, a very specific actor that is no longer available, with 3 video game characters selected by our patrons, patreon.com/easyallies. Number 1, a film I know we all know and love. Sean Astin has stormed off of the Lord of the Rings set.
Oh, no.
I know, terrible, right? These are all terrible. We need a new loyal video game Samwise to escort Frodo to Mordor. Our available choices are Otacon from Metal Gear Solid, Navi from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and Sully from Uncharted.
I think it's Otacon.
I'm going with Sully.
It's always good.
Yeah, Otacon, I don't know. He gets a little flaky. He gets to be a little bit of a coward sometimes.
Which I think is perfect for the Lord of the Rings vibes, though, because Sam kind of freaks out, gets kind of nervous once in a while,
Gets
you know?
a little nervous, but I'm saying, like, he's there for you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's reliable. I feel like Sully is pretty reliable out
Pretty
of this
reliable.
group.
Pretty reliable.
But you can't be brave if you're not scared, you know?
But
Right.
also, I feel
You
like
gotta prove you're
I mean,
brave.
I'm not saying he's not scared, but
I feel like Sully's too OP, though. He, like, kind of takes the power away from Frodo, you know? It's like, yo, give Sully the ring now.
Yeah, he'll just bring a plane. You just fly him over
Yeah,
there.
there it is. The long
You'll find a boat somewhere
the
or
long
something.
debated fly the ring to
Yeah,
Mount
right.
Doom.
I just don't know. Navi wouldn't be able to like physically assist Frodo, But think of all the times where someone either sneaks up or they need a little bit of a heads up. That alert, that constant like, hey, Frodo, listen, like,
Yeah.
Gollum trying to sneak up to you. No, hey, Gollum, right, like alert. Yeah, like, I don't know. That might be a good trade-off.
That is pretty
Hey,
good.
listen.
Do we have one vote
Putting
for
on
each?
the ring is bad.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't fall in the swamp. One vote each.
I'm just here for the Otacon Middle Earth commentary. Otacon just talking about things that he sees in Middle Earth, like that's gold. I want to see it.
All that Uncharted passion, though. Sully would not be your first pick. You'd still. Blood says we
I
need a
love
winner.
Sully.
I mean, Blood's not
I
going to
love
stand for
Sully.
this. We need to.
Yeah.
What kind of anime
I was
is
just thinking
Otacon
that
into?
this is like my
in Middle
Gondorian anime.
What are the scrolls?
You would shatter Otacon because love wouldn't bloom on that battlefield.
Love blooms on that battlefield.
Yeah.
I could definitely
Otacon
see
would go
Otacon
back
just
and-
totally falling for some elf woman.
Get some ale
Yep.
for the redhead at the bar. You know, Otacon would wind up with somebody at the end
Tripping
of all of
over
this.
himself over Gladriel, like
Oh my gosh.
All right, I think you got me on Otacon.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Night Owl, completely out of character, Keanu Reeves walks off the set for John Wick 4.
Uh-oh.
Hopefully, it's
No.
still in the Matrix, but I can't. Knowing how crazy our
Keanu.
patrons is, how crazy they are.
Something
Three
was
replacements.
said.
3 replacements show up for John Wick.
Okay.
Because we've got to make at least one more movie, if not more. Max Payne, specifically from the first 2 games.
Okay.
Okay.
The patron
Yep.
Night Owl specifically said
Younger
not
Max
3.
Payne.
Geralt of Rivia, who has come up in this selection before,
Carol keeps popping up.
and the Biomutant.
Oh my god.
Max Payne.
Yeah, Max Payne for sure.
Max Payne feels like the best fit.
Yeah.
Sounded so good when you said
or is he
it.
too good of a fit though?
I mean, some of these have to
Great.
fit well, right? Some of these actually have to like kind of work.
No, Max Payne has earned it.
Yeah, Max Payne has earned it. I mean, Max Payne. I forget why I was just talking about it, but the Matrix mods in Max Payne where you could just be Neo and spin on the walls, like it's come full circle. You know,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
because they had a bullet time, right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And, you know, in this post specifically saying that obviously there is a marked difference between the Max Payne in 3 and in 1 and 2. But even 1 and 2 are very different. If you could pick between both of those to
One.
play. One, really? Because he's like, Wick's like, he was like retired. So you wouldn't go with the 2 route. You can be a little more mature, a little more tired, a couple more
Were they
bags under his
remastered
eyes.
these?
True, John Wick 4. Yeah, I don't know the tone of John Wick 4. I guess he is a little older, I suppose.
Starting out
It'll
there.
probably be pretty much the same as
Max
3.
Payne for the win.
Yeah.
They have never remade the first Max
Max,
Payne.
it'd be such a good remake
Yeah.
possibility. That's such a good one to remake.
Good Switch game.
Oh,
Maybe bring it to that PlayStation 5. Any good games coming out for the PlayStation 5?
I'd say so.
Today we had a PlayStation Showcase, the PlayStation Showcase 2021. And I think we are lukewarm on some things, but there's some other things we are just absolutely bubbling, frothing at the bit.
Yeah.
There's one I tell you I want to talk about immediately, but I can't
Yeah.
because I got to talk about God of War. We
yeah.
have to talk about God of War. This
Oh,
is I think this
starting.
is, well, I think this is the big thing that we had expectations going in, and I think our expectations were met, even although we found out a lot of new exciting things. I think it's the biggest thing that Sony wants us to push. I think it's we can spend the most time talking about it. And certainly you, Michael Huber, are excited about this game.
So excited.
I will
Sony
just say,
wants us to push is the weirdest. What? Who
Yeah,
cares?
what?
well, no, I think they want we as viewers. I think they want people going away being like, obviously, you're excited about some things you didn't know. Like, I'm thrilled about KOTOR, but like, what are we really? How deep can we dive into that from what we've seen? Whereas, like, I think there's a lot of. I think you even said, Damiani, what was going on. It's like, whoa, we're seeing a lot of this game. So. But we can talk about Wolverine if you want to.
We'll talk about it, yeah.
God of War.
For sure.
I think that, well, because a lot of the stuff that we found out about, we have no release date. Some of these things, even labeled specifically 2023, where, probably we're getting this game this year. You think it's based on what you saw today? Or getting next year?
The
2022?
The blog said see you next year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But was this? I mean, is that the first time they've like officially acknowledged that it's not coming out in 2021? Because when they first did the teaser, it did say
Right.
for it indicated 2021.
It
so
might be.
This,
So they've
but
been
no one
playing
really
this
expected
weird,
it.
like shell game with the title too. This is the first time the title was official. And I even
Or,
one
like,
of the
joked
comments was
about it.
confused
Like,
because
yeah,
they said
yeah.
the title in the last trailer. I'm like, yeah, but since then they've acted like it's untitled.
Well, he said Ragnarok is coming. I think there's
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
actual text.
There's
so.
there's even a
It's like Avengers Endgame. Just like
you were talking about Corey, like joking about it, he also has a video where he's sitting there with a God of War shirt and there's tape over it, and he slowly takes the tape off, and it's Ragnarok.
That teaser trailer did say 2021, yeah. And that was released in September of 2020.
Yeah. But I think we all figured it at this point.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
no way,
Yeah.
like, in the next 3 months, that game would be
No.
coming out.
Yeah.
That's how little they've said about it.
For sure.
Though it did look much further along than I thought it was going to be, as you were referencing earlier, Jones. I was just like, they showed off a lot of gameplay. It looks like it's definitely ready to come out next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple takeaways. The Atreus spirit mount move was so awesome. And then Kratos kind of using the blades for traversal. He like whips up to a ledge and picks himself up. That was really cool. And then just story stuff. I know Isla has a lot of Norse input on this, but just from the last God of War, the thing that stood out to me most were two things. It was Tyr, the Norse God of War, who was heavily teased in the last game, and Freya. Freya just coming for Kratos' head. Just in that one clip, it was like 10 seconds. Just in that 10 seconds, like so much emotion, so much energy, so much thought of what this game can be story-wise. It's just, blown away by what we saw. I loved it. And the town, Jones.
Yeah.
That was one of your complaints with 2018, is it felt isolated, felt barren, and they showed what could potentially be a hub town with Brock and Sindri there, potentially. We don't know if that's a trick shot or a trick edit, but we saw people just kind of walking around there.
Yeah.
I think that fits.
I think
Really
Octopus Guy might be a shopkeeper in that town, but Brock and Sindri are
I
always
think it would fit. Yeah.
going
They're always
around
wandering
different
around,
places.
I think it's interesting how much they seem to be open with so far. Like they've talked a lot about characters, they've talked about actors, they've talked about locations and events and things like that. And they also talk like this is the cap on this chapter, right? The
that's
Norse
shocking.
chapter.
Yeah.
So essentially indicating there won't be a trilogy here. I mean, does that mean this game is a 40-hour game?
Yeah.
You know, like how much is going to happen here?
Yeah, they said 6 realms you could go to in 2018, and some of those were really small. Like Muspelheim is basically just a battle
It's
arena.
Yeah.
They said you can go to all 9 in this one now. Who knows how big they are? Yeah.
And it was, I was starting to piece together what the sequel would be from all the gates that wouldn't open, all the places I couldn't go in the first game. And so them just being like, it's going to be, I mean, obviously we've seen a little bit, areas frosted over and stuff that like will most likely return to a lot of environments that are very different, and the story is
I
progressed.
do think that's interesting, though, to go back to some of those areas. I think that creates a sense of persistence in this world.
The frozen lake, Bloodward.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I think that, even from, not to spoil too much, but from the bonus ending, essentially, of the last game.
Great.
They didn't just take off. Like they still are kind of in the same area sometime later. So it's curious to think about where this journey might take them and how much of the old ground we might retread and see differences in, and then how we might branch off of that, or how things might have changed in the years that have passed.
That was the thing that I was surprised by a lot, was in the trailer how much they spoiled from the first game. I won't specifically say what, but
Sure.
they were saying names, they were showing people, they like said the name of a character that they just introduced, that if you know anything about Norse mythology at all, it's like, well, that's who that is. Like, shoot, like, it's kind of nuts that and I mean, they depart from the mythology. Obviously, Kratos isn't in Norse lore, but like, it's pretty nuts that they're just like, all right, here it is.
Especially because we just went through Ratchet and Clank's advertising campaign where they were just like, cryptic forever about who these other characters were, and like they loved, having people asking questions and making guesses.
Good call.
But I'm sure there's still so much more. It's just one of those games. I always want to analyze the game's advertising purely based on what I think that game is going to be, but it's impossible not to watch this footage and be like, I bet that's really fun to play. I bet that feels really good. Basically everything that Kratos is doing right now.
Yeah.
Because I can't, I have criticisms from that first game, but whenever I watch footage of it again, it's like,
You have criticisms for.
Yeah.
What the visuals too. I thought it looked great, but what's more important to me is like performance. I know this is cross-gen. I think it's on. It looks better than 2018. It's not obviously as big of a leap, but that one initially ran at 30 frames. So I think if this just out of the box runs at 60, like I will take that over even better visuals sometimes,
Well, even that early shot of Kratos at the fire in the cave, like he looks really good there.
Yeah.
And it's like, it could be really easy to see, like, oh, it looks the same.
Yeah.
Like, no, he looks better.
For sure.
They've
For
definitely
sure.
increased the detail there.
Yeah.
And I mean, you wouldn't want it to be like, obviously you want games to improve, but you wouldn't want it to be a huge graphical departure, on a story
Right.
that lifts
Good
up
call.
theoretically right after the other one.
Great
Like, it would be
call.
weird if all of a sudden it was like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
What if they had a Spider-Man where it was like a different Kratos? They were like, sorry, we had a new actor. So how do you have a new Kratos? You're like, what?
That'd be
Oh.
devastating. That actor's
Some other weird.
No.
Yeah. That's still a weird moment when they did that.
We did. They didn't show the faces in Spider-Man, who we'll get to in a second. But
Saw some new enemies. The like harpoon one looked really cool. It was like a harpoon centaur.
He has a centaur.
Very
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, some really cool creatures. The sled.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
a
so you're
dog
gonna
say
sled
that.
instead of a boat.
Yeah, because they showed the boat too, so it's like more
Yeah.
traversal options.
Well, because the world lake or whatever is frozen, so you got a dog sled on it.
new director, which is interesting. It's, which I didn't know, and I think they actually made that official announcement after in the post show. But I think they had some really nice rhetoric around that, where they were, Corey's like happy to step aside because I am. And this is awesome.
Yeah.
And hinting that he's also working on something else, which given how much Insomniac dominated that presentation, or like these other, it's common to know that these teams, Santa Monica and Insomniac, are working on Sony is spending a lot of money on these teams that have just delivered again and again. But are you familiar with that director? Do you think, how important is that to you, or are you just?
I mean, it's still the studio, I'm sure Corey's around. It's not just one person making the game. It's a team. It's Sony Santa Monica. So does not no like emotions one way or the other. He's been there that director's been there for a long time, and again, it's a collaborative team effort. So
I think what's interesting though is kind of his take on like showing more of I think they said slice of life elements in the game, and just kind of having those moments to pause and just like be with characters and get to know them more. And I think that with the level of depth we moved into in the last game, like that's just even more important now. And there were just so many great conversations when you're walking around that game, or going up a ladder and having this conversation with Mimir or something. And it's just like, man, just to get more of that and to have more of those moments. I'm very curious to see how it all play out.
Yeah, and I remember Corey talking about how he used his real life experiences of being a father, with and imprinting that onto this game. So I imagine, this one just being fresh eyes, fresh take.
And that tension in this trailer between Atreus and Kratos, like Kratos is overfighting and Atreus is like, we gotta fight.
Kratos is tired. So tired. So tired.
Well, and with a new director, the first game made so many really good stylistic and gameplay choices that that template is set up in a way that I think a new director could come in, still put their own stamp on it, and it'll still feel cohesive because if they just adhere to that style guide and the choices, like the single take stuff, I think it'll still feel really cool.
Yeah, the combat already felt so great already.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you have so many teams. I mean, specifically this and Spider-Man 2, it's just two teams where Sony just went back and they're like, just do it,
Yep.
There's, obviously going to do some new things, but if it ain't broke, I expect both of those sequels to be somewhat similar.
I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface at all on God of War. Because I remember the first time they showed 2018, it was basically that intro where they're fighting the big troll creature.
Yeah, they just did a quick
And
demo.
it's there's so much
Yeah.
more. You know, this trailer obviously bounced around a little bit, but it still felt early.
Yeah, this felt more like the second trailer
Yeah.
for God
Sure,
of War 2.
yeah.
Yeah.
See Insomniac Games logo. We see Marvel logo,
Yeah.
and they know that we're all going to think.
Yeah.
99% of the people watching this are like, oh, okay, I know what this is going to be. And even like a little bit into it, I was like, oh, okay, this is a new character they're introducing. And even when we were like, oh, hey, that's Wolverine tomorrow, I was like, neat, Wolverine's going to be in Spider-Man 2. How exciting.
Yeah.
Nope, apparently Insomniac Studios is making their own Wolverine video game
Yes.
called Marvel's Wolverine, which is a shocker. And then your brain realizes, of course, Of course the execs sat down. My only question is this Insomniac knocking on Marvel's door and saying, we know we can pull this off and we really want to do Wolverine, or if they were like, Wolverine, please? And they were like, oh, sure, that'll be fun. You know, like I'm sure they're excited to do it, but I wonder like who really made the call on this one.
Yeah. Well,
Who made
also,
the
yeah,
call?
because, Brian Intihar was such a driving force behind that first Spider-Man game.
Very passionate about that character.
Yeah. So I'm very curious as you're saying, like what was the order of operations here?
Yeah.
How did they end up making this match? Who on the team, is really, invested in Wolverine already? And so much of why Spider-Man is so good is because they were such passionate fans and they knew what they wanted to have in a Spider-Man game, and not just focusing on power-ups and traversal, but like we need to get into who this character is. We need to see his struggle between being a superhero and being like having his everyday life. And so to think about all of that they put into Spider-Man, and if they have people that are just as passionate about Wolverine and Wolverine's character, this could be a very, very interesting game. But Wolverine is super different. Wolverine is not a character that I expect to be in one place for 20 hours.
One of my dreams, Bloodworth, was the Last of Us style game with Wolverine. That is what I want from this. I want Wolverine going on some journey, walking through
Road trip
Wolverine game, bumping into other characters like Hulk might show up. Who knows? Will Spider-Man show up? Because they said this was standalone in the blog thing. Now, that could be like standalone, not in the Spider-Man games universe, or just standalone, like, this is its own game,
Right.
but it's still in the universe.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I didn't get to read the blog,
Got it.
but if they're saying standalone, I'm going to guess that it doesn't have any connection to anything else. I think that was a really smart move on their part with Spider-Man.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to bring up that I think was really good with Spider-Man is they didn't go back to the beginning. They didn't retell the origin stories. They went with a more experienced version of Spider-Man. And I think that's something that could benefit Wolverine as well, because they've tried to tell and botched those origins so many times, and it's been done so many different ways that, like, even a flashback is like, I don't think we need it. I think we can just deal with Wolverine is dealing with right now. He's got enough baggage going on.
Yeah.
that we don't need to go back to Weapon X again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're totally right. And like from the trailer, it looks like he's like Wolverine in hiding is one of my favorite things. Like Wolverine trying not to kill people is one of my favorite. Like he just wants to be left alone, you know, and he can't escape it. And like, unlike Spider-Man who's tied to one location, Wolverine's like traipsing all over the place. So I'm really excited for like a globe-trotting like revenge. I don't even know what the storyline they would do would be.
What's the mission?
Yeah.
And
Well, and how much do we get from other characters, right?
Right, like does Sabretooth show up? Like
He's so liquid in terms of like who he interacts with, right?
Yeah.
Because he, like you guys were talking about Hulk.
Hero,
If
villain,
Hulk-
Avengers.
He's been with Captain America.
If
He's
Hulk
been with the
throws
X-Men.
me as Wolverine, that's it.
The
I will
dream.
shed tears.
Like
coming, boss
how many
fight.
other X-Men will be in it? Like
Well, yeah,
Magneto in
Wolverine's
it?
one of them. He's one of them X-Men there.
Yeah.
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 And there's a couple of those characters.
Yeah.
That are fun in video games. I hear he's got a pretty awesome rivalry going on in that
If
X-Men family
Cyclops
there.
shows up for you, Jones,
There's one of those characters in the X-Men there that he's a fan of beating the hell out of.
Can you imagine a Cyclops
I
boss
can,
fight?
I can, and I
Let's
want it.
go.
I want it. You know what I mean? That's like again, it's like that's an adversary. You know, it's like he's not gonna really hurt you. But he's a tough guy to get close to because he just keeps knocking me back.
The one thing I wonder about is like, because Insomniac, you know, in the Spider-Man games, you're always talking on the phone to somebody. You have someone to chat with. Who's Wolverine going to bounce off of? Like, are they going to give him?
Be great. He
Are
just
they going to
doesn't
give
talk
him
a lot.
Rogue? Are they going to give him like a little girl? Are they going to, you know, or is he just like wandering the earth by himself, grumbling at people and never talking to anyone?
Or somebody,
Could be great. Could be anything.
I can imagine the destruction in this game.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I think of Marvel's Avengers, the Square Enix game, and just how like neutered Hulk is in that game. You can't really like punch through anything.
He is the saddest character.
Yeah,
of all
and it's like if Hulk shows up in this, or even if not, you know, it's just Wolverine just being able to like that shot of the bar and just the chaos in there.
Yeah.
I imagine that but even more, you know, and if you're in the forest, like cutting down trees or just like human wrecking ball smashing through walls and buildings. Like
they kind of hinted at that in the first Spider-Man. They did a little of that in Miles Morales, where the environment would change, things would get built or destroyed or whatever.
That needs to be taken to the next level.
But if it wasn't such a huge open world and you just had these little self-contained areas, it'd be neat if you can just get wreck shop in there, or have something come in and Blob come in and just wreck the place, and then it's like destroyed forever.
Dude.
Such a good rivalry, dude. Wolverine and Blob.
Also, I really
Colossus
hope.
and
I really hope it's rated M.
Yeah.
Like needs to be. It's
sure.
Wolverine.
Yeah, we were looking into it. Resistance and Sunset Overdrive. So Insomniac.
Sunset Overdrive is right.
Yep.
Okay.
They've made a couple, but
Yeah, I feel like this would probably be more of a Marvel call, unfortunately.
Yeah, a lot of T for teen on Marvel there.
maybe like a gore option. Maybe there's something at the very beginning. It's like,
but
hey,
that's
what do you
not
want
going to help the
kinda
rating. Like, it's not going to help the design. So,
I think to sell units, they'd probably want to go teen. Yeah.
but I don't know. Well,
Who
I mean,
knows?
they, you know, it was pre-MCU or early MCU when they did the good Wolverine game that was
X-Men
M-rated.
Origins
Yeah.
Wolverine. I'm glad you brought it
yeah.
up, Bloodworth. Thank you for me. I was just going to bring it up. Just give it a shout out because it's so awesome.
And shout out to the Wolverine. I think it was just called Wolverine. There was a game before that was like an action game. I think it was like right at the beginning of like the X-Men craze. And one of my favorite things, what I would love if Somniac had in this game, is the manual ability to pull the claws in and out. So I still, all the combos you're giving me and everything, I can do those claws in or out. Like pulling my claws out is a totally separate button that just like mods everything. So like if I have my claws out,
haptics.
all my stuff changes.
That's literally, that's what
Dude.
it means.
Yes.
It'd be like light punch for like let them bleed out slowly, or like strong for like piercing through
Dude,
them.
the speed you pull the trigger is how fast the
Yeah.
claws come out.
It's like having the independent holster stuff in Red Dead. It's just nice to just pull the gun out and not do anything else, but just pull the gun out, you know. So it's neat to like, you know, fisticuff some dudes, and then a big robot comes by. And like,
I hope
it never
every-
got old in that game. I loved it.
I hope obviously you'll have regenerating health bar, but I hope every time you pull the claws out, you lose 2% of your health,
That'd
and then
be
it just
so
comes
awesome.
back.
Seriously.
Yeah. Even
Just a
when you
little bit of
die,
the-
he just lays there for like a minute, and then he slowly gets back up. It's like Mortal Kombat, where you're like, there's no, game over screen between matches. It just, Ray just gets back up, like shakes it off. Yeah, it is exciting. And you were talking about different environments. You're talking about road trip. You're talking about him changing and going undercover and all this stuff. Insomniac, which was a developer we already knew as this, and it completely, proved it in Spider-Man with all the different costumes. You start this Wolverine trailer showing him in jeans and a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
And you've just made a game where you had not only one, but I think two animated. Yeah, and Miles, they had him from Spider-Verse.
Yeah, that's
we have
great.
these animated versions of the character that make it look straight out of a cartoon.
Oh, for sure.
Or was it pretty much 100% lock that we have the 90s animated X-Men
For sure.
Wolverine
I
in
know
this
it.
game, right?
I know what just popped in his
I
head.
need it. I need a Hugh Jackman skin. I need it.
I want
the
him to
man
voice him.
is Wolverine. I know you have your issue with
No.
he's tall.
No.
I need
Because
it.
he's tall.
That's the only thing I don't like. No. Michael Seward on Patreon wants to know, do you think Wolverine's face was obscured in the trailer because it's
Yeah.
going to be Hugh Jackman?
Yes.
I wouldn't say there's any guarantee of
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman. I would think they most likely will lean away from it.
Yeah.
I bet they asked him at the very least.
I would love a skin. I would
He
love
does,
just a skin.
he did narrate something. He's some scientist.
Because they
somewhere or
have
whatever.
they have Raimi's Spider-Man suit in Spider-Man.
Right.
So taking, just the movie version of
Right.
Wolverine right there. It makes sense.
It's the same actor as in this game. They just give him the dumb haircut. He just got. He was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's great, thanks. That's exactly what I wanted."
This one's for you, Morv.
I'm so excited. That was, I mean, that was clearly the one that just we jumped out of our chairs, like
Because
that
it was
we did
so
not
unexpected.
see that coming.
Like, I didn't believe, truly, that I thought it was just too soon for Spider-Man 2, especially because we just got Miles Morales. And for Insomniac to be making a Wolverine game, I mean, that is a dream for a lot of people. That's a dream for me. I mean, that is a match made in heaven. It's just so unexpected and just such a surprise. In an industry where it's hard to surprise people nowadays because of leaks and just sequels and franchises. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, this not leaking is
Unreal.
amazing.
Yeah.
Too early for Spider-Man 2, you say?
That's what we thought.
Yeah.
We got to look at Spider-Man 2. We're not going to play this game for another 2 years, year and a half. 2023 is when they're telling this game is going to come out.
Wow.
I desperately want this to be co-op. Apparently, it will not be single player,
Yeah.
as it's being
Oh, okay.
described right now.
Co-op DLC would be cool. Like a extra little side thing.
I think you pick a character and then they have slightly different stories, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah,
Because
different
Venom
missions.
says which one of you is going to be like my challenge. You know?
True. But I mean, the trailer, it also
And it
showed
showed
them
a
doing
co-op
a tag
attack,
team
yeah.
attack. So
Yeah.
I imagine there'll be like some tag mechanics in there as
Yeah.
well.
It'd be cool to and even if missions were, like one of them's not on, you're kind of aware of where the other one is. It'd be neat if he was just flying around the environment or something, and you could see him
Right.
like stopping a crime.
They could do GTA 5 too, where you just switch back and forth.
Great call. Wasn't even thinking that. Great call.
Hey, I hear GTA 5 on PlayStation 5. The load times will be faster between characters
I heard this version has explosive action.
and enhanced gameplay.
Enhanced
Yeah,
gameplay?
yeah.
Improved graphics?
Enhanced gameplay. What the heck does that mean?
They added haptics probably?
Sure.
That's probably
Yeah.
It's going to sell, so they don't care.
Yo, yeah.
Right?
Venom is in this game.
Venom.
Yeah.
Venom is also getting his own. Venom's very hot right now. Good for Venom. Venom's doing well. This will be definitely a different Venom from the Hardy Venom. This will be Tony Todd as Venom, a.k.a. Candyman.
So sick.
And I'm sure they're going to be modding the hell out of his voice as well. But that brings Symbiote into the picture. That brings potentially the Fantastic Four into the picture. I want lots of different cameos in this game.
Doom.
Um,
Dr. Doom end credits tease, calling it now.
what are our expectations for Spider-Man 2?
My expectations are that we're going to get some really, we're finally going to get Venom. I feel like we're still waiting for a good Superman game. Like, give Superman.
Sure.
Sure, some beat 'em ups back then, but I think of Maximum Carnage, with
Yeah.
Carnage and Venom, but
The Justice League PS2 game is all right.
yeah, but I want Venom enhanced, next level Venom. I don't know.
Oh, well, I
don't
mean,
know what that
PS
looks
PS
like.
Symbiote and PS5, what a flex. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like, it'll be the new, Puddlegate. It'll be like Symbiote Gate. Just like that symbiote was shinier in that first trailer.
I'm curious what impact Venom will have as a villain, unlike
Yeah.
the world, because I'm assuming this will be the third time we're going back to New York City. So, how much more can they change it to make it feel fresh and
Yeah.
engaging to explore? Because they changed season with Miles Morales, added a few more areas and structures, but it's like, what is it in danger of maybe feeling too samey? Obviously, they're thinking about that. Obviously, they're going to do something. So, what is it they're going to do? That's it. Are they just going to take you to another city perhaps, or are they going to radically change how it looks? Like maybe Venom's done something to the city at some point, and it's I don't know. Yeah, what crazy hook?
Corrupted or
Yeah,
something.
I feel like there's got to be some kind of hook there that we're
Sure.
they're going to show off in that first full gameplay trailer. And I'm very curious to see what they're doing with the city, because it's just so fun to go through it. And you know what? I want co-op. Not co-op, tag team swinging mechanics. I want that showcase of the gameplay, showing so now that you're Miles and Peter, you're gonna be able to do these new combo mechanics and stuff. And I want to see that skill tree. And yeah. I want to see that.
I'm wondering too if
Traversal.
since Venom is, kind of an anti-hero, I wonder if he's not really the big bad and they team up halfway through against somebody else like Doctor Doom or something.
That's why I think, I look at it less as Venom's in this game, because he obviously is, but just more that symbiote. Okay, we're getting into symbiote, and just kind of what's the, the origin of that.
Because will you get a Spider Venom
Right.
suit and
Dude,
abilities?
They showed before the logo was revealed, I think it turned red, but at first was black
Yeah.
when you saw the spider, and so it was just like, okay, well, Peter's going to have to go through that. That's a fun way to put a wedge between Miles, and Miles suddenly
Friction.
feels I'm almost as powerful as you were both our own Spider-Man, and then Peter just
Peter's
takes
the
off and
bad
is
guy?
like, look at all the crazy stuff I can do. Oh, a Miles Peter and symbiote fight is for
Yeah.
sure
Oh,
happening.
Oh,
Where you have to
man.
fight Peter and get the suit off him, like.
Jones, I would love your take on the open world, because Spider-Man's open world's cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Really love it. The crimes in progress are a little repetitive, but they're awesome that like you
Right.
can swing in and stop a crime in progress, but a lot of the main missions are like go to the marker, start the mission.
Right.
Do we think the format is going to be the same in this, or it's going to be like Venom is just going to be in the open world, or villains, depending on how far along you are? Or like...
Yeah, I've dreamed. I mean,
more
as a Batman
dynamic,
fan,
more-
I've dreamed of a live
Like,
open world
yeah.
comic thing where it's
Yes.
just like I can't see on the mission list where I'm at. I literally have to just pay attention to what's going on in the city and
all
just
in
happen.
real time kind of thing. Is that
No way. I
Okay,
think it's gonna
okay.
happen. I think
Okay,
they're
okay.
gonna play it safe because it worked. Like
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think they're gonna stray from the format too much. But you've already seen like what they added to Miles Morales. They recognized it was different characters, so they had to change it up that way. I think what was surprising with Miles Morales is they actually pulled off this character with less abilities. A lot of people complained about it. It's like, well, it wouldn't make sense if Miles was like, I'm 40 times more powerful than Peter Parker. So I think it's actually like, building in such a, not predictable, but it's like, I think about Spider-Man 2 and it's like playing those two games, I almost know exactly kind of like where to set my expectations for this. But I am a firm believer in any open world map that there's a ton of stuff you can do. What if like Peter has to buy his own apartment and you have like options? You can like buy that one or that one, and they're like maybe Miles wants to move in with them, and you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't do that, or like am I going to get a place with Mary Jane, or am I going to get a place with Miles? Or am I going to get a place by myself? If I spend this money, do I have less money to spend on upgrades, or like how do they handle having really get through the sense of what it's like to live in that city and have all that stuff weighing on their shoulders. And it's not just like whether I got beat up the last fight, but like, what are my relationships with these people?
Yeah.
How, what's my job? Like they tease that, I think, in Miles. There's like a line like near the end where Peter's like, I got to get a job. Like I was on vacation with Mary Jane and that was fun, but like I really should probably like, bring home some bacon.
You were saying about New York again. And I think, even if you do New York again, that's the way you can improve it, is interiors. Not a lot of interiors in the other games. Some missions take you inside, but like no apartment in Spider-Man. Like you couldn't go in his room was a big one, and just like kind of a lot of just big blank buildings.
Which they flexed hardcore in Miles because it's like, okay, look at this apartment. And it was
Yeah.
like, oh, it's great. I can look out the window and see people walking around. Like
So
Yeah.
if they continue to do that, add more interiors.
meaningful interiors. Not just
Meaningful
random,
interiors.
like,
Well,
banks and stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, one of the high points of
Daredevil's
Ratchet and Clank,
Murdoch's law office.
that they had talked about was just the ability to have just so much more character variety and enemy variety, and and you saw that when you went to the bar, Zircon's bar, and just a crazy amount of creatures that are all there at the same time, just walking around. That place is nuts. So I think that'll be really interesting to see how that impacts Spider-Man, because you get into a lot of these situations where there's a bunch of thugs with different weapons, and now you're saying that like symbiotes there and stuff, and potentially if you get some other factions, and like you could get into more complex combat scenarios where you're not just getting overwhelmed with a bunch of rockets.
Yeah.
I just want to play some video games right now. Holy shit.
Yep. I mean, I can even ratchet. You want to ratchet it up further? You want to even ratchet it up further? Just throw some names out here. Daredevil.
Yep.
Punisher.
Because they tease so many of that too. Murdoch's law office. You can like see it. Isn't it one of the photos? Yeah.
Doctor Strange.
Dude, if Frank
yeah.
They
Castle
live
shows
there.
up.
It'd be neat
Yeah,
if
I
Jessica
mean,
Jones,
Doctor Strange building
She-Hulk.
is there. The Avengers Tower is there.
It'd be fun if the
So
game was
many.
about New York. It really like had an idea of like that New York has its own identity in the Marvel universe. Like there are stuff happens there, but there's still some people, like Tony's there every now and then, but like these people live, like Daredevil lives in Hell's Kitchen. Like they live, this is their turf. So it'd be neat to have that fight, similar to how Miles kind of got into that, how Miles had the, pride in the neighborhood he came from.
I think because they were restrained with their Avengers tie-ins in the other ones. You see the tower or whatever, okay, but it was all about Spider-Man. I think they've done that now, and the fact that they're also making Wolverine, I bet they just have full trust from Marvel now. So maybe now they're able to go crazy with some of these cameos, and it also won't take away from Spider-Man or from Peter and Miles because they've had their own games. So
I wonder. I was thinking about this too because I wonder if Marvel is like pissed at themselves for giving different Marvel games to different studios because they're like, man, those Insomniac ones are really good and these other ones not as great. Like, I kind of wish that the Avengers could be in the Spider-Man now, but it would be weird.
Isla, this really feels like, if Wolverine is connected, like this feels like this could be the video games MCU, like the Spider-Man MCU going. You have your Wolverine game, maybe they make a Punisher game, Iron Man, who knows? And it's like this could all be leading up to 10 years from now or something where there's an Insomniacs Avengers
I do think
game.
Fortnite's in a much better position to pull something like that off. That's where I see the metaverse really coming into play. I think we're like circa late 90s Blade era as far as video game to movie parallel right now. I don't really see it happening.
Well,
it's like this is a standalone game. Wolverine's a standalone. And like at first it's like, oh, come on. And then I think like, I mean, what a nice, you don't have to worry. Like once you make that decision creatively, then you're like, cool. We don't know. No one's going to correct us. We're not going to regret something a year later.
Yeah.
Somebody,
Fair.
It's almost better if they don't have anything to do with each other.
One of the story, guys like Brian Michael Bendis is going to call me and be like, we screwed up. I'm like, what happened? What we do? It's like, we should have. But
I
don't know.
think
It could
that
be a wink and a nudge that could all connect. Who knows?
Wolverine leading into a full-on X-Men game by Insomniac would be pretty crazy.
Oh my God! Yeah, they just do that on the side.
Yeah.
There you go.
Like their split track is Spider-Man and X-Men. That would be awesome.
And even if they don't, still awesome.
Still gonna be sick.
Yeah.
And then there was that third Marvel game that Sony talked about.
Yeah.
Woo!
Oh my God! I almost forgot.
Guardians of the
I
Galaxy.
truly almost
Yeah.
forgot.
Straight up did forget.
Whoa.
I only say it because you say Marvel's Wolverine, and we're just like, like we're almost passing out. Spider-Man 2 is 2 years away, but it's like I could see it, I can smell it, I can taste it, and that's like, oh wait, there's that other. Why?
In a month and a half.
Because like I'm actually I'm excited about the next Spider-Man movie. I'm very excited about the next Guardians Volume 3, especially that's the whole crew's back together, all the creative energy behind that. Gosh darn, what is it about Guardians of the Galaxy?
I don't know.
What do they need to do? Can they do anything between now and launch to get people super, super excited in this? I think it might sell well.
Yeah, I think it's gonna do well. I think it'll review like fine. Honestly, I think it's gonna be an okay game. There's just something about it, and it's kind of like leading up to the Avengers game. It's just like the weird comparisons to the MCU. Insomniac has magically made it so it's their own thing. You're maybe thinking about the MCU a little bit, but it's also its own thing. Whereas every time I play Avengers, it's just anytime Iron Man says some quip, I'm just like, no.
The jokes didn't land.
Yeah,
Well,
I
because
don't
it's
know.
like a strong.
It's like trying to be MCU, but it's not.
Right, that's what it is.
Yeah.
The Insomniac ones have a strong identity of their own and are leaning on comics and stuff more. The Square ones feel like they wanted to be the MCU, but just didn't get the license.
Yeah.
So they're just like the MCU likeness license from the actors. So
They're
it's
trying to like recreate the experience.
Right,
It's like a
right.
theme park. It's like ride the movie.
Right.
Like that kind of energy in it.
Right.
They're also ensemble pieces, which is interesting, because so are Spider-Man, and of course Wolverine, because we brought up all these other X-Men and characters that could come into it. But at the root of it is Peter Parker and Logan. They got to carry the whole thing. Whereas like it's weird seeing like all of the Guardians and being like, none of them remind me of these versions I'm so familiar with.
Yeah, just so odd because like Insomniac's tech just looks better because we've been talking about like the animations and like the kind of like
the
stiffness of the look of the characters' movements, and then the combat in Guardians and everything I saw about like Avengers, coupled with just what you just said. Also like the writing is just not on point at all.
The jokes don't land.
Yeah, you were saying you pointed out, Isla, like you were the first to actually say it about like the heart attack gag about distraction. It's like, that's not funny. And then we rewatched a random Guardians trailer. It's like the first line about like a gun, like
the guns are my thing.
Yeah, like
no, it's cool.
Better
Okay.
than anything I've seen in any of the Guardians game trailers. It's like they just don't they might have a huge budget, but like that doesn't necessarily equate into a good finished product here. And it's I do think about, man, maybe take it away from Square.
Yeah, and it's Eidos Montreal. I love Eidos Montreal. I love Deus
What's like
Ex,
getting
but-
Star Wars away from EA? It's like, no, you don't get that anymore.
Well, yeah, and it just feels like Square Enix is mishandling Eidos Montreal. We know all about the Mankind Divided debacle, And then they got pulled onto the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and we're just like working on the Tomb Raider series with Crystal Dynamics. And it just feels like I don't know if this is true. This is just my perception. It feels like Square told them to make this game rather than Spider-Man, Insomniac. We want to make this.
Right.
We love it. We are passionate. It's honestly just like, yo, you guys are making a Guardians game now. That's just kind of the vibe I get.
Right.
I don't know if that's true. Just how I
Yeah,
feel.
and that's the thing with me from what I saw from the gameplay demo and stuff at E3 of like I actually think like, gameplay wise, this could be really interesting. Like these guys are really great at level design. They're really great at giving players choices and interesting ways of doing things. And like, you kind of follow your own path, find your own play style. But like I was saying, well, before the podcast is like, is this going to be a game where like it's fun to play, but you just want to skip every cutscene?
Right. Well, also Ben said, about Psychonauts 2, which I can't wait to check out. That like he's like, sometimes the most I laughed was at some guy down a hallway that I just had. Oh, let me just see what this guy's saying now. And it's just like he would, when you're not expecting the big cutscene joke, and somebody just drops something really funny on you, or irreverent, or something that even makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine Guardians, like I bet maybe some of those Groot lines, some of those rocket lines, like just in passing while we're just running down a hallway between enemies, or in the middle of some boss fight and they say something funny, like Simpsons Hit and Run. I'm not getting any of that from any of the trailer, from either one of them. And so I think about Guardians, I think about trailer campaigns sometime, like gas in a tank. You're trying to make that road trip all the way to launch, and like, do you have enough? This game is out of gas. I don't know what else they can do.
But I mean,
there's no
you're
weird
saying out of
character
gas,
that
but
wasn't.
like it wasn't there from the start. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Is like we haven't gotten the thing to really reel us in, to really hook us on like, oh, I want to play this. It's like, oh, if I do play this, it might be all right.
Like,
But I don't have any desire to run out and grab it.
yeah. I'm wondering if that'll all come together is the choices,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe depending on the choices you make in the game, things can really branch out in wonderful, different ways. But the trailers haven't really shown that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And it's like, I don't know, like, whether it's just the writing that they have is not, they just don't have the comedy writing, like experience. I don't know if like something with the direction for the actors, or they didn't get the right actors to kind of play those kinds of roles, or it's just. But like you're saying, it's like the fun vibe all just feels just kind of forced. They're like we're trying to do it, but we're not really.
Well, like Drax,
getting
Groot,
it
and
there.
Gamora, all three of them did nothing in that trailer. You had some reactions
Yeah.
from Gamora when she was looking at the little girl in like one cutscene, but it's just like there was no. I need at least one moment. It's an ensemble piece, and it really feels Quill driven. Like Quill, right? And you're like, no, he's an idiot. Like he's the worst character. Like he's fun, but it's like you need everyone else checking him.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's what makes those moments work.
Yeah, Jones.
When like he tries to shoot the gun at the end and it doesn't. And like doesn't work. Classic Quill. But who knows? It deserves to be marked right now before we move on to other projects. That Midnight Suns was just announced. A Wolverine game is coming from
So
the game
much
that is
Marvel.
also making Spider-Man 2, that also just made a half Spider-Man game that came out between 1 and 2, and a Guardians, and this crazy
And your
Marvel
phone game.
It's just like
It's out of control.
Disney is spending some money. With Sony, specifically. Oh, also, Knights of the Old Republic is getting remade. We can get to other updates. But before we get to anything, they're like, oh, we saw more footage of this, or we got a new release date for this.
What
Yeah,
the hell?
baby.
Yes.
Was there a blog post on this? Because what
I
they
didn't
tried to say
Not a lot of
afterwards
details.
told me nothing.
Yeah.
Doing the Sith angle's kind of fun. That's kind of, it was an infamous moral choice game, but they were like, nah, bro. Like, that ain't our Revan. This could, I mean, I could go on and on. There's so many other things to talk about. There's so many directions they could take this in. The biggest of which I think is just like KOTOR's just a lot of hallways, really pretty hallways with really good stories to tell while you're running down those hallways, but it's a very boxed in environment
Right.
with really gorgeous skyboxes that sell the magnitude of each of these planets. So it's like, I wonder if just, page 1, you just break all of that up and just make really interesting environments to explore. Aspire working on it.
Yeah.
From a remake, it's not remastered, the remake perspective.
There is a blog post. I just found one.
Do you think Aspire has the chops?
What do we know? What has Aspire done?
I mean, Aspire's done a lot of like Nixus. They've done a lot of port work.
I recall them like every time I would get a
I
Mac
want to say
thing,
they did
because I didn't grow up a
the
PC family. I
episode
was a
1
Mac
Racer
family.
port as well.
I saw Aspire theme park sims. There was
Yeah.
just like they were always their name was always popping up when they would just port something.
In
Mac.
particular, they've made a lot of Mac versions of games in the past.
Okay, so they've been around.
Yeah, but they also said that they have people from the original KOTOR team
Great.
that have joined the staff.
Sweet.
So they're looking at that. But yeah, it just like in terms of them talking about what they're going to do, it just felt very vague. And so it's like, to what extent are you going to remake things? And it's like, well, we're going to try to honor the original. And,
Sure.
and it's like, so are you
More fidelity.
Yeah, like how? Because I'd have to feel like you have to do something to modernize the combat.
You're just
The
gonna
combat
say,
is
the
really
UI,
weird to go back to.
the combat for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blog post says basically nothing. It says they're going to remake one of the greatest RPGs of all time for a new generation with modern tech, features, visuals, and more, while maintaining the integrity of the story and characters you've come to cherish. And then the rest is just like whatever. It's a
Take my $70.
console exclusive
Let's
at
do it.
PS5. At
Yeah,
launch.
that sounds like don't mess with the story, but we might be overhauling some of the stuff you were just mentioning. But I also wonder how much of that, might draw some potential backlash from purists who are like, that's what all these remakes, that's the pitfall
True.
you have to avoid, is that when you're changing stuff, you're going to have some people who just aren't happy with those changes, but sometimes they are for the better. And I imagine for this game, what they're doing will probably be for the better. But like that knee-jerk reaction, that maybe why they didn't want to show it off just yet, it's because, hey, this is a good announcement. People are excited about it. Let's be ambiguous, because we start showing a bunch of gameplay and UI. People are like, wait, what the hell are you doing in this game? What's going on here? So
High stakes
that
for a lot
first
of people.
like the first time they showed off, that first impression is going to be so important for this type of game.
It's also on my mobile phone.
Oh, yeah?
Knights of the Old Republic. That's why like if fans came at me and were just
Yo,
like,
they're gonna add
they
auto
changed
battle?
this thing. It's like, it's on your phone, dude.
It's
This
on
game
your
is so
phone.
accessible
Yeah.
and still holds. It still
Well, I hope they keep
still
it
play the
accessible.
original.
sounds
Yeah.
great. The score is great. So, it's like this. It's a really fun game to go back to. I would love if they would change it up. I would love if they went the 7 remake route, where like some of the pistol stuff, like you don't have to really turn base it. If you want to just run around and shoot, you can do that. But it'd be interesting to kind of break. There's so many ways to remake that.
It says here that Asper was responsible for bringing multiple Star Wars games to modern systems before, too, including Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy, Episode 1 Racer, Republic Commando, and yes, Knights of the Old Republic.
Nice.
So they have some practice with Star Wars games.
Yeah,
Excellent.
not a team I know like who's there or who's left. I don't know if that in those days
Yeah.
if that those people are still on staff, but heck yeah.
Yeah.
So I think those were all like the main exciting announcements from the showcase. Then we got updates on lots of stuff. Are you sitting down, Damiani? Apparently, Forspoken is coming out in spring 2022, and there's a cat named Homer in it.
Best cat.
What else? What else do you need to
Better
know
than
about this
Stray?
game?
I want
Better cat than Stray?
No, I mean, best cat of the
The showcase.
showcase.
Nice,
Showcase.
nice,
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, better be like at least 2-hour opening where I can spend time with that cat.
Yes.
I doubt it.
But I think that looks spectacular.
Yeah, still some question marks because it obviously has a few more months to go before it comes out. So the question about polish around some of the sequences, the traversal mechanics, and some of the combat sequences. Interesting, we learned from the blog that your main protagonist, Frey, will not be using any kind of traditional combat weapons like no swords, no shields, no axes. Instead, using magic. A lot of focus on water magic, like being able to conjure water to circle
Waterbender.
Basically waterbender, and then freezing and stuff. But they also said we don't want to spoil anything, but there're gonna be a lot more powers you're gonna be learning through that. And there's certain shots you can see like you're gathering up some rocks or stones and hurl them as well. So it's like, oh yeah. But again, it seems like they have such high expectations for this game from past dev interviews. Limited Studios, they have lofty a pedigree, having worked on Final Fantasy 15, all these tech things these tech showpieces they put out in the past for the engine that they're working on. And it looks like a really cool concept. They have a lot of big name people behind it. You know, we also found out, I guess, I don't know if it was known before today, but Amy Hennig also joining the writing team alongside Gary Whitta and some others.
Todd Stashwick, who frequently works with Hennig, he was working on that Star Wars game when he left as well.
So I think it's a very unique concept. From Square Enix, at least I would say it shows a lot of promise, and I'm glad they're doing another open world style game. It's just I think the polish needs to be there. And you were saying stuff about this, Huber, in comparison to maybe another game in the showcase, was about despite it being open world, you were worried about what you're going to be doing in that environment.
Yeah, I'd rather have smaller and fuller worlds than massive and barren ones. The game looked gorgeous, but at the same time, it just didn't look like I wanted to explore it. I wanted to travel through it. The traversal looked really fun, and the height. A lot of verticality.
Right. One specific shot of the clouds just jumps off.
They knew
all
what they were doing. Stuff was great, but I'd like to see some more like depth with the interiors maybe, or just more like maybe come to some towns. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree, because all you saw her was jumping across
just rocks.
Some rooftops
just
at one.
Rocks.
Even the town bar was like across rooftop. Didn't go into any of those buildings.
It looked like there was not
and
really
then the gameplay we saw before is forests, and again more out areas, lots of teleportation, and but showing like you move very fast. It's very fun and freeing to just like zap around this world.
Yeah, the most intriguing part about the gameplay and from the combat perspective, besides using magic, was that final tease of one of the villains. It's that it looked like a more intense like one-on-one style battle.
Kind of reminded me of that the demo you played, the Final Fantasy one.
It's the Origins, the Chaos.
Yeah. Right. Give me that energy.
It's Chaos again. Yeah, for sure.
Because Forspoken is such this is showing what this engine can do. And because so much of what we've seen has been like totally combat focused, I wonder if like it's the type of game where they're like, before we really move on with this, I want to make sure it represents the engine really well, and I want to make sure it is extremely fun to play, because like that's the type, that's building on the magic system we had in Final Fantasy 15. That's like our kind of style of gameplay. So I wonder if they figured that out, and then now they're like, okay, now time to finish the story and the cutscenes and everything, and now time to like build, like you're saying, those towns that'll obviously make the world so much richer.
And maybe maybe you go to the real world more than they're letting on, and when you're in the real world, that's when you get,
Yeah, like the portal kind of closes behind her when she tries to go back through it, but will there be any kind of can you go back and forth type thing with that? Right. That could be a unique gameplay hook that they're saving for a later date, but. Yeah, I would love to hear some of the music in the game. Some question marks about the voice works or the dialogue so far. Just, it's a little, it's early maybe.
Which is again random shots.
Yeah,
like lady at the end was like, we'll see if you're good at what you do with the magic, and then it was like, Forspoken. Like that was the last line in the okay. That's about a 45-second in a minute and a half trailer line usually, but there's just hodgepodge. They're just grabbing random stuff.
Just for so much time they spent Luminous Productions and using their engine Luminous Studio to work on this. Again, go back to high expectations that I feel like the game has to perform at a certain level.
Yeah.
So I hope the next time we see it, it does look a little bit more polished, and we see a little bit more of like the hooks to what are we gonna be doing in the world? Is it just running around and fighting random enemies? Maybe there's like giant bosses just roaming the world or something like that. And are you gonna go back and forth between the real world or not? And like more specifically, how's magic gonna work? The skill tree, like how do you learn those new spells?
Quests.
Talking to your like little ring, it's called the cuff or something on her arm. Like what's the deal with that? So
Read the dialogue, Damiani. It's like there's a naturalistic way to swear, and then there's a way to swear where it's like, hey, we're Square Enix and we're swearing in one of our games.
Right.
Like, ooh, look at us, Like this definitely reads like that.
Kind of like the different teams, but like with Guardians as well. It's like sometimes I wonder, but they have such big names, but are they the ones actually writing the dialogue, or did they just come up with the narrative, like the story and the plot points, and another team is fleshing out the dialogue? It's like,
To be frank, the whole kid in King Arthur's court vibe to me, like, isn't that like? I wonder how she's going to react to this world. Like, I don't really care. I'm more excited just to see the world than her being like, whoa. You know, it's like I imagine that moment's gonna get a little tired. And what does it mean? Like, am I gonna get to the end of this game and it's like, oh, remember when she came from Earth? Who knows what that? You know, she could have just as well been someone from this world that didn't know magic and then learned it later.
Sort of in that same vein, though. Like, I'm curious how much. Like, you can customize your costume and that sort of thing. And
I'd love if you could just wear flannel. That'd be great.
If you go back and you're wearing some crazy armor or something, everyone just like walking down the street starts turning their head. Like, what?
Yeah.
Hey,
what are you? What?
It's not all in her head, right? Because like she gets kind of beat up by people, and it's like clearly.
No.
Yeah, is it one of those?
Wizard of Oz.
Because I
It's
like.
never-ending story. She learns her lesson and then stands up to her bullies at the end.
Right.
Like Damiani was saying,
Yeah.
never
Jack Black will be in the third one.
Yeah. Because I like that storyline of just like overcoming the bullies.
Yeah.
But you're overcoming the bullies, but at the end she actually turns out to be like
she
some
becomes-
evil
Yeah.
witch
Kills
and just
them,
like
yeah.
crushes
the
them
villain.
in the air.
Yeah. Instead of throwing him in the dumpster, she's like, yeah, you learned your lesson.
That'd be rad.
I would love that. And then she's like, oh shit, like I gotta
But she
deal
says,
with this.
oh
so
shit,
dark.
in the worst possible way. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, and then she like winks at the camera.
We made the mistake of talking about Parasite Eve before this showcase.
Oh, God.
Oh no.
And then a game perfectly, potentially, wonderfully,
Yeah.
competent in its own right, Project Eve.
Some good looking
From
gore.
a developer working on mobile games, Nikke and Destiny Child. Just Destiny Child. Chat told us this game was announced in 2019, and I guess it's just we're finally getting in the States, or this is something we maybe should have known
Weird 'cause
about.
something on the blog or something somewhere, maybe it was on the YouTube video, said first trailer, and I was like, wait, but
I mean, if they hadn't had a trailer before,
yeah,
they've
so
just
this
been
might have
talking
been the
about
first
it.
actual
Yeah.
trailer,
First
proper trailer.
gameplay that we've
Yeah.
seen, maybe, or and
Yeah,
they
it
just
says
jumped
they
right into
announced
gameplay.
development in
Like
2019.
Okay,
So,
so
on
it
the
started with her
PlayStation
running up
blog.
to like a brain slug and stabbing it with a giant sword, and we were like, okay, here we go.
All right.
Some action shots.
Yeah, some combat in this. That's what I love about that God of War tease is they're just like, and Kratos. Like, it literally just faded up, and they were like, there's no question what this is.
And here's Kratos.
Let's get to it.
Yo, that fur armor he's wearing on the key art.
Yep.
My God.
But within what?
Oh my God.
Within 2 seconds, they said something about Eve and then parasites.
Yeah.
It was parasiting.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were.
insane.
What is with that?
I don't know what that was
Company
about.
is just, making you think.
Yeah, surprised it wasn't.
battling-
You said it could have been Blue Box, right?
That would have been like, oh my god.
You're
no.
battling against invaders called the natives, but it's capital N, capital A, colon tivs.
Okay.
What?
All right.
But
Love
they're
me a good colon.
invaders? So it's like, I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, this game looks crazy.
We'll see. Interesting game for Sony to talk about. I wonder how much they're going to talk about it more in the future. That's something that they're really pushing. Speaking of games we had seen before, but got a lot more today and stood out. Chia. It's an open world Breath of the Wild-esque game with one kid. I don't know if we can play as multiple kids. We're following this little girl who's possessing animals, Odyssey style.
Yeah.
Um,
Mario Odyssey style.
Mario Odyssey
Not
style.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Right. It's
Good call.
Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild put together. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
But
I loved this game.
inspired by New Caledonia. I'm very curious.
I'm
more about it. It looks
really-
completely charming.
Yeah, I really want to get invested in this. These are my kind of stories, just like heartfelt, emotionally resonant. You know, it looked like the factory was the villain in this game, like polluting the island. And it's just a cool, like I want to be a dog, just running around. I want to be a bird.
Sea turtles,
You want to pet a
mate.
crab?
Yeah, I want to pet a crab and
Crab.
have it love me back. Yes.
Dude, I can't help. Like, this game looks amazing. I really, really am looking forward to it. But I also feel bad because, like, Get Out put the idea in my head of, like, okay, but if I'm going into this turtle, am I putting the turtle in the sunken place?
Yeah,
like, is this,
good
like, a
call.
consent problem?
Oh,
like, you know, like,
Yeah.
what are the moral implications?
Well,
of-
Get Out, they're like maliciously doing
yeah,
it.
right.
This
yeah,
seems
yeah.
friendly. They say, like, hey, let me hitch a ride in
yeah,
you.
yeah. It's more like
I'm sure when this launches, if you go on Twitch, you're going to see nothing but people being really
Maybe-
kind to animals. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's going to be.
Maybe there'll be like a kind of like
Like being John
conversation
Malkovich.
where they talk to each other, communicate. And
Yeah.
then they're like, hey, I want to fly and I need your help. And it's like,
Drift
all right,
compatible.
yeah.
Like sharing it.
Yeah, they're just like you will temporarily share this space.
Yes.
Maybe you have to pet the crab before you can use the crab.
Oh, that would
Build
actually
a
be
offering,
bond and they let you in.
that would actually be nice.
And then the
if they
seagulls
let
tell
you
their
in.
seagull friends,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You can trust this one. It's fine.
Yes.
You've unlocked seagulls.
She took me over. It was awesome. I flew places I've never been before.
I kind
There
of
are
hope
secrets
that's
all
true.
over this
I
island.
kind of hope
Oh, maybe
that's
like
true.
her eye is green because that means she has permission, and it turns red when she can't do it.
What were you saying?
All
Adam?
right.
You kind of hope.
Oh,
what?
I just hope that's true. I
Oh,
hope
yeah.
that you have to like befriend the seagulls before you can go into seagulls.
PlayStation Showcase, Gran Turismo shows up, feels right. Showing off pretty gameplay, looks good. What burden does Gran Turismo have to prove what the PlayStation 5 can do? Because that always seems like an imperative with PlayStation.
Well, I think one of the
but
things,
it's less so, like every gen.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think some people, in terms of criticizing it, it comes down to it being cross-gen, that it's on PS4 as well. And I also think that, unlike past Gran Turismo games, this trailer didn't give me that sense of like, holy crap, this looks real. Like, there's usually that sense of lighting in Gran Turismo that even back in the day, even back on the PS2, like, would just trick you.
Yeah.
And like, I think just like with the generations, like, it's getting harder and harder to do. That it feels expected in a way, but it obviously still looks really good.
Yeah.
Well, especially after Forza Horizon did trick us. Like that shot of that desert or whatever, and we were like, what is this, a video? Oh, it's Forza. Okay.
Whereas Gran Turismo, like in practice, like the backgrounds can be fairly simple a lot of the times, but it's the cars that do the tricking. But yeah, in terms of what it has to live up to, I mean, it's like their blog post was just so hyperbolic. It was like, we're going, to put
the culmination
all
of the series,
car culture for the last 150 years into this one game. Just like, what does that mean? How many cars are there going to be? I think GT6 had something like 1,200 cars.
Well, that's what I love, Bloodworth, is, and I kind of mentioned it on God of War. It's like, this looks better, but like, it's all about under the hood for me this generation. How is it running? So it's like if Gran Turismo 7 looks great, but it's like the best feeling and playing one. The cars feel better than they've ever felt. Like, that's more important to me than
they did talk up the haptics.
Yeah.
And how
They showed
that's
HUD
gonna
up
feel.
gameplay, which I always appreciate, because it's so easy. There's so many like racing trailers I've seen that really show off the engine, but it's all like that classic cutscene BMW commercial, like there it goes down around the curve, and it's like I'd love to get behind the car, in the car, see what this HUD's gonna look like. And it's always GT has always had a very like Hideo Kojima boxy kind of HUD, just like lots of text, like lots of information to display. So that was neat. I thought that was fairly genuine.
And it does, it does definitely like go very heavy towards that sim side of things. So there's certain things that they don't even bother with, like damage. The reflections though in this trailer, like them showing off ray tracing and that stuff.
that opening shot
That
was
one,
so wild.
that one shot where you're like you're looking at the environment, and they zoom out, and it's like, no, you're looking at the hood of the car.
Yeah, that was cool. That was really cool. Feels like a great time to get back into Gran Turismo. Played the originals, obviously 3 the most, 4 a bit, prologue. Just kind of fell off with 5 and 6.
Well, yeah, I'm the opposite. Where like I
fine.
didn't have the PlayStations back then, so like I jumped in on 5.
Yeah, yeah.
I played some of the stuff, the early PS3 things, the GT HD demo or whatever they had.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think I
just
only
it's been
played
so
the
long. I
first
feel like.
one. I played the first one like crazy, and then never played the rest.
We see trailers for things, and then I wonder why are we watching this? Why am I seeing this again? What am I learning? Ghostwire Tokyo jumped up my list.
Good.
Huber.
Good.
I am slightly more anticipating that game. I think that would be a game I would want
Good
to
job,
check
Tango.
out, just because the aesthetic is I love ghosts and what a beautiful city, and combat's fun, and this is a developer that's made some games before that I've greatly enjoyed. But the last one was just kind of like all over the place. There's a lot of like crazy Ninja Gaiden looking cutscenes, people doing backflips and throwing motorcycles and like, what, and this was just like more directed, more enemy focused, really got a sense of how the gameplay feels. I thought it was cool and creepy. I thought we were really getting away from this game being scary because they were more action focused than maybe the horror game that we thought it was going to be. And like, I think one of the last enemy shots is just some crazy, Japanese demon mask looking thing that just comes out of the darkness. And it's like, oh, okay. Like this could be kind of fun. Even like the original Doom, like if stuff creeps up on you, like it's spooky if there's a lot of enemies to deal with.
Yeah. I'm glad you're hyped, Jones, because I feel like this is kind of the victim of maybe showing the game a little too early. You know, this has been happening a lot. Obviously, COVID, things have been delayed. And then there's the whole like Akumi Nakamura leaving. You know, she was the original director, so it's like, is there trouble behind the scenes?
Which turned out like no, but who knows? It's hard to get that stuff out of your head and wonder.
Yeah. So the fact that they showed up today after a little bit and raised people's hype levels, I think that's promising. That's encouraging.
Learn more about this protagonist. We got a friend, girlfriend in the hospital that we're trying to
cool.
Help. Like the villain really came into focus, that he's kind of in control in these things. And so it just, I don't know, kind of got teeth. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I will play this. I think my expectations are getting set.
I kind of felt like the villain stuff was a bit too talky, but I'm hoping that's just because it just condensed into this trailer.
Sure.
Because I do want there to be that sort of sense of horror and isolation, and I think that was taken away a bit here in this one. Like we are
supernatural
feeling maybe a bit too much off of the mystery of it.
Sure.
So like, yeah, I want to still have a lot of things come at me that I'm not expecting when I play this game.
The expectations are horror, and they've been like trying to be like, no, it's an action game, supernatural action thriller, So I'm not expecting like crazy horror stuff, but like you were saying, freaky demons.
I think I know what I'm expecting now.
You.
I've kind of said, I got it. I understand what this game is. Which again is like, if we get by the time we get the third trailer, it's like, are you just death looping me right now, or am I actually like learning new stuff?
And how unique is that first person combat? That's so sick. It's just like freaking Naruto vibes, Damiani. Like doing weird like I'm so down for that.
Well, hands are hard to do. Melee combat is always seen traditionally rough in first-person shooters, doing a lot of stuff with arms. Like in VR, intentionally just is like, now you have hands. I'm not even going to deal with some weird-looking bendy thing. So yeah, it's hopefully one of you be kicking a lot in that game. We'll see. I will. The quote from this next game. This is just a fantasy Borderlands. Daniel Bloodworth, 2021. Finally got to see Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
I mean, we saw it like when they first announced it as well, but
we saw a tease. We didn't see gameplay, so this was it. This was the big gameplay reveal. This is what we thought we were going to see it again later. And we're like, oh, they're totally going to show it at that. Here we go. It's going to be gameplay.
Yeah.
No. Saving it until today. Did it splash?
I mean, it looks great. It looks
of course
fine.
It's going to sell a ton.
But it's just very much like, I think them throwing guns in there and even like throwing a line to dismiss why they have guns, I think it takes a little bit away from it, because it would be, to me, a little bit more interesting if it was more focused on melee weapons and spells. And so like, even if like using a staff to throw a bunch of fireballs essentially feels like a gun, it's not a gun,
Good call. Yeah. That would have been cool. The only shot that stood out to me was the overworld when they were like traveling around.
Oh, right, the big head mode.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah,
that was an
I do
interesting,
like that.
cool shot. Other than that, like you said, it just looked like more Borderlands, different skin, reskin.
So I'm very, I think it does allow them to be more creative with character design, though, and I think there was a lot to see there in those terms, that you weren't just fighting a bunch of like the same kind of psycho models. There was a like shark-looking thing. There were some mushroom-looking guys. There's just a lot of variety in that sense, and so I hope that, at least in that sense, that the way the enemies act and behave, is very different. And even in Borderlands 3, they did a lot of variety, and they had a lot more emphasis on, okay, this guy's got this weakness, but these other guys are in here too, and just sort of having to manage that, and like one player focus on one thing and somebody else focus on something else, or having more options in your arsenal. So hopefully they continue down that path and really just bring a lot more energy to the combat.
It was a good long while since this game got announced. I thought we would have gotten some gameplay before now. Rainbow Six Extraction, Vampire the Masquerade, Blood Hunt, and Deathloop all showed up and said hi, but I don't know if anybody has anything specific to say about it.
Blood Hunt is either already in early access or soon to be in early access. I forget the exact date that is happening on PC, but since it's a PlayStation conference, they're talking about when that's coming to PS5.
Grand Theft Auto 5, March 2022 on the PlayStation 5. And Radiohead is doing a Kid A Amnesia exhibition with Epic Games, which I'm convinced they said no to Fortnite. That Epic sold Fortnite, and Radiohead was like, "We're not doing Fortnite." No. So they were like, "Okay, we'll think of something else." Yeah.
So is that just an event? Is that
Yeah.
What is that?
It's an experience.
It's an experience.
And Uncharted 4: Thief's End and Lost Legacy coming to PS5 and
Dope.
PC.
Yep.
Yeah.
Each time one of these happens, we're one step closer to that Bloodborne. Bloodborne 60 and PC.
We need it.
Yeah, it'll come. They're saving it up.
No Fire Sprite mention, even though the developers of
Yeah.
Whiteout were purchased this week by PlayStation, so making some more news. And no Horizon Forbidden West, even though they gave it lip service at the end, and we're just like, trust me, it's beautiful. I'm like, thank you, Herman.
Didn't they have that at Gamescom?
They'll have a state of play in December or something.
There's a statue in
Maybe January.
The chess weird live
The
action
weird
chess
chess-
thing.
Oh my gosh.
That stupid
Why didn't I
trailer,
get into
yeah.
that? Too much else to talk about. That opening. Oh, I love those. And no Silent Hill, so I won that bet with Ben. That means Ben has to play PT with the lights off sometime this Halloween, sometime
Gets
this
to.
October.
Yeah,
Gets
he
to.
gets
Yeah,
to.
he said he was going to do it anyway, so
Yeah.
it's not fun to win those bets against
Gets
Ben.
to.
Yep.
Privilege.
Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsors. We all shop online, and we've all seen that promo code field taunt us at checkout. But thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is a thing of the past. Honey is the free shopping tool that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. Honey supports over 30,000 stores online. They range from sites that have tech and gaming products to popular fashion brands and even food delivery. Here's how it works. Imagine you're shopping on one of your favorite sites. When you check out, the Honey button drops down. All you have to do is click Apply Coupons. Wait a few seconds as Honey searches for coupons it can find for that site. If Honey finds a working coupon, you'll watch the prices drop. We have been purchasing a lot of things. Sadly, there are many more things we have to purchase here at Easy Allies because stuff breaks. Especially if you're not in the studio for a long time, you come back and equipment just isn't there for you the way it should be. And so I've been buying some things on Amazon and just not only getting those savings via Honey. Honey has a rewards program, so they got their own currency, their own economy.
Nice.
Within Honey. It's nice to rack up those points as well. Honey has found over 17 million members, over $2 billion in savings. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out on free savings. It's literally free, installs in a few seconds. It installs insanely fast. I talk about install times a lot on this podcast. The gold medal is definitely Honey. That's whoosh, done. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this podcast. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/allies. That's joinhoney.com/allies. With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients and mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Fall is busy, but HelloFresh recipes save time you'd otherwise spend meal planning, shopping, and chopping. So you can get back to what matters. HelloFresh's family-friendly menu is a big win for back-to-school season with easy, delicious recipes for drama-free dinners. Especially, speaking of family-friendly, so Milo's a big fan, just like kids are. They really want to know what's going on. And Milo's got the step stool, and he'll bring in the step stool, and he'll put it up right on the counter, and he'll step up and see what mom's doing. Anything that's sizzling on the counter, and any smoke that's coming out. A 2-year-old is just like, what are you melting up there? I got to see that. So not only are these meals so quick to make and so easy to make, but it's been a wonderful experience, an educational experience. Got to teach that kid to cook. I never learned to cook, and I'm paying for it. Paid for it in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. Finally getting caught up now, thanks to HelloFresh. Go to HelloFresh.com/allies14 and use code allies14 for up to 14 free meals, including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/allies14. Use code allies14 for up to 14 free meals, including free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Life is full of stressors. Doesn't matter who you are or what you have, your life is probably stressful. You may not be feeling down and out depressed, or like you're at a total loss, but if your stress is high, your temper is shorter than usual, or even if you're starting to feel strain in any of your relationships, you could probably use the chance to unload. A long time ago, I discovered that I was having anxiety attacks. I was positive. I'm like, all I gotta figure out is the medicine that I need. There's a pill that I need to take that solves this. No, it was completely in my brain. I cured stomach problems I had because I got into therapy. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy. You can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Unload the stressors and get some unbiased feedback. You'd be pretty surprised at what you might gain from it. See if it's for you. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Easy Allies listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/allies. That's BETTERHELP. BetterHelp, one word, .com/allies. And if you are a patron of Easy Allies, thank you. There's something else showed in that Sony showcase that I didn't talk about that was announced this week, just slightly before it. I know, we're all talking about Wolverine, we're all talking about Spider-Man 2, it's happening. You know what I'm happy at? I'm happy it's called Spider-Man 2. I'm happy it's not like Spider-Man 2, Web of whatever. Like, oh, come on. Alan Wake Remastered.
Tight.
That we got to see gameplay of.
Tight.
That looks fine. It's not, I don't know. It sounds
fine.
I don't know if Alan Wake was one of those like graphical like powerhouses, stylistically fascinating game.
Back then. Good lighting.
But we are getting a remaster of this game. Sam Lake took to Twitter and said, wrote a nice piece to just fans of Alan Wake. Definitely one of those franchises that you hear from people, that have played it, that want more people to check it out.
Yes, please.
So it being
got
remastered
canceled back then, it was unacceptable.
is, of course, that opportunity. And another win just for this studio that's just had more and more and more success, is really starting to kind of pick and choose projects that they want to work on. Many multiplayer Control happening, Control 2 happening. What is it that I'll start with this question? What should you preserve from Alan Wake? If I'm coming to a remaster, like what should I focus on? If I can't maybe remaster everything, it's like make sure you accentuate.
100%. It's my favorite part of that game for sure. Just having to run through darkness to get to a street lamp because that's where you're safe. You really feel it in that game. You feel the pressure of the darkness. You feel like light is this sanctuary. And just getting there, I remember in the very beginning of the game, it's not spoilers, but you have to get to a gas station. And you have to go through the dark ass woods to get there, and you just see it in the distance like a beacon of light and hope. And just the lighting and just the atmosphere is awesome in this game.
But it's interesting because you're talking about preserving, but to me that's actually an example of something that they could really improve on because Control, like right now, it's like one of my go-tos for checking out ray tracing on my PC. It's just like you go in there and you turn it on and off, and you just see the difference, like night and day. And so if they apply that kind of technology to Alan Wake and really again take into account like what they were going for when they originally made it, it could be actually really, really cool to see it in action. Yeah. What's funny to me is from looking at this trailer, just from memory, without any kind of comparison shots, I just felt like I was looking at Alan Wake again. I didn't see anything that stood out to me.
He looked a little different.
PS5.
I'm such a defender, but fair.
Waiting for those comparisons.
The biggest thing, honestly,
that's actually it.
was just his face, the actual, his appearance, like that persona. I was like, okay, he has a couple more wrinkles. They definitely took another stab at that, like actually making him look like a real person. A lot of those characters, I'm curious to see how his buddy that shows up a ton. I don't think I saw in the trailer at all. Did we?
No,
he wasn't in there.
He plays a big role in that game. I remember him.
The Christmas lights is so just the lights, the imagery in that game, the atmosphere. Oh.
Alan Wake, Damiani? Did you know?
I know about Alan Wake.
Did you ever play it?
No.
Isla, did you ever play Alan Wake?
Dude, what's the craziest thing? This is less than a month away.
Yes. Perfect time for Halloween.
Halloween is a really,
Such a
really good time
Halloween
to check
game.
this game out.
And of course, if you've played Control, you know what's up. You know what's...
Do you? I've played Control. Okay, this not.
And there's also two expansions, the last one of which is really important.
There's someone out there
That's
who's...
what I'm interested in, how they present those now with the remaster.
Yeah.
Because before they were DLC, they were kind of clunky. They were sort of added on. But I played that game years later.
Good call.
And I played all that stuff back to back.
Signal and the beacon, maybe?
This is like part of the story.
Yeah.
Right.
You should not play this game and not play those DLCs.
Yeah.
Like you need to put all of it
Asura's
together.
Wrath style.
So hopefully they find a
Prince
way
of
to weave
Persia.
that in a little bit more naturally.
Absolutely,
So that you don't
Bloodworth.
get to that first, canon ending or whatever and be like, oh, I'm done. I don't really want to work to do. It's like, no. Tie that together.
Yeah.
Lead players into that stuff because it's very, very important.
Totally.
Let's say I didn't. I played Control. I enjoyed it.
mean-
Didn't play any of the DLCs. Where should my expectations be going into Alan Wake?
Just a little slice. How do I not spoil this?
It's much more linear, right?
Yeah.
It's like Control is much more Metroidvania.
Of
You're
course,
yeah,
of
you're
course.
zigzagging through a lot of these
you're going
areas.
beginning
Whereas
to
like
end.
This is way slower paced, like you said, Control, you're flying, you're zipping. This is much more methodical. Shades of survival horror, you got to watch your bullets.
not very ability focused. Like you definitely feel like a god in Control, whereas like you are just a writer. You're just a dude with a gun.
Yeah.
Do the best you can.
You want to absorb as much of the background story as you can. And again, I think that's where the DLC chapters really expand things and make the rest of the game pay off more. I think it just really opens it all up and it really like adds to the impact of what that story is doing.
Is American Nightmare part of this?
Don't think so.
Don't think so, and I don't like that game. So
So
Yeah,
is that a waste of time?
Same blood.
I would not.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I just if this makes
that's a
lot of money.
weird freaking game.
What if
It's
this makes
like
a lot of money
American
is-
Nightmare is like, to me, it felt like taking Alan Wake and just like doing the inverse.
Yeah.
Like it just focused on all the wrong things. It just it was like, oh, you guys didn't like this? Okay, we'll do the opposite thing with the same characters.
Yeah.
Like it was just weird.
I think there was a certain amount of money that
Pretty sure
Control
it's
needed to
filler, too.
make before they could potentially greenlight Alan Wake Remastered.
Yeah.
Do you think there's an amount of money that Alan Wake Remastered needs to remake before they would consider making two? Because I mean, that again, the Control DLC, it's like they very much are enamored with this world and can tie all of this together if they want.
Didn't they confirm Alan Wake 2 or was that rumors? It's hard to keep track now.
I feel
like
like
they
they've talked about
Yeah.
Alan Wake 2 in
Yeah.
some form or another, but
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah. Cue corrections.
Cool.
But I swear I heard that. Unless it was just rumors. It's sometimes
Right.
hard to
Yeah.
parse that.
Might be rumors.
Got it.
I'm checking.
Got
It's
it.
the Crash Bandicoot effect. Every
'Cause
time we get a remaster or
but it's
something,
the
I'm
thing,
always
when
like,
you-
I see what you're
when you
doing.
talk about the Control expanded universe, like
Mm-hmm.
that,
Yeah.
like at this point, that can mean an Alan Wake 2. Like it
Or,
just,
yeah.
Yeah, we know that Remedy has moved into full production on their next game, but it's only speculated to be.
Cool. So rumors. Unconfirmed rumors.
Something happened this week.
But it's in the connected universe. Sorry.
Neat. Something happened this week. That isn't like crazy headline news, but I think is special and I think is a nice success story. I want to mark the occasion because there are two people, myself included, in this podcast recording area that have had a wonderful time with this game. No Man's Sky is now, quote, mostly positive on Steam. No
Love
Man's
it.
Sky has ridden the long road
Clawed
of
and
all of these
scratched.
people, just Steam just giving it the full weight of this company's failures. And they have kept fighting the fight, and now statistically is in the point where most of the people think this game is in good condition, is something that you should check out. So did you believe in No Man's Sky that it could potentially get back to this point? Obviously not based on launch, but just what they've been up to. What is your opinion of No Man's Sky in its current state? Because I know Isla's played a bunch, so just want to throw it at you, panelists.
I mean, it's something that I've always wanted to get into and haven't. But I've always, even from launch, I've always just felt like it was a victim of just the wrong expectations or expectations being set too high or just kind of that visionary language that like, this is what we could do with this, but it's like they can't actually,
Yeah.
and so I think it just took that time for like everybody to sort of reset and say, okay, it wasn't what we imagined it would be. It wasn't what the developers imagined it would be. It wasn't what Sony was imagining it would be. It's this. But then they kept adding to it and making it, more than what was originally there. And I think that there's a lot of respect that has come with that to say that, like, hey, you know what? We're going to keep working on this thing. We're going to keep adding things that we like, and we're going to keep building on it. And I think in particular, if you're somebody who didn't jump in right away, that kind of like the bad taste of the initial launch, it probably just doesn't have any effect on what you experience when you jump into it now.
I wonder if it hadn't had that crazy amount of expectation and hype put on it. Like, we went to a 2-hour-long concert of the live concert of the music for this game before the game was out.
That.
Like,
It was so
at
weird.
PSX or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And like, I almost wonder if we wouldn't have gotten the game that we have now if it didn't have such crazy hype and disappoint so many people and like light that fire to keep them going. You know, like if they had just said like, hey, it's Proteus with spaceships, it's an art game, because that's kind of what it was when it came out. Like, you didn't necessarily have anything specifically to do, kind of. If it had met expectations when it came out and everyone was just like, yeah, cool, okay, I wonder if they probably wouldn't have made it into what it is now. So I don't know, it's worth it. It's a fun game.
It had to fail to rise.
Yeah, why do we fall, Master Bruce?
Yeah.
Well, because, and they clearly made the decision to keep working on it. You know, I don't know if this is money. This is literally just checks that Hello Games is cashing. I don't know if Sony's got a relationship with them. Like, if Sony was pushing them a lot. You know, it's not only just like, hey, let's keep working on it. Like, they could afford to keep working on it. So that's also fascinating to me, that like, I wonder if they looked at that initial income coming in and were like, oh, this will be enough, or if this was like a massive risk that they took working on it because it was just a passion project. But
Did you see Sean Layden's comment about video game budgets? So revealing. You know I love this stuff. Said PS4 games cost $100 million. Said PS5 games will cost $200 million. So I just thought that was a nice measurement.
And we'll I
like-
want their bottom line so bad. I
Yeah.
want all I want all their numbers over the
Yeah.
last like 5 years. It's been 5 years since this game launched.
Yeah.
I'd love to see like when it turned, if it
Yeah,
dipped up, if
yeah.
they're
Right.
still bleeding chips, like how
Yeah.
that works out, because you get such a tremendous sense of passion from this team. This is really something they believe in. And in the current state of its game, even though I'm not playing it, it's not only now met my expectations of what I dreamed it could be at launch. It's like they're adding stuff now. I'm like, cool. Like the latest updates, like a frontier. You can like be a mayor of a town full of aliens. Just like,
Yeah, it looks crazy.
I can't get into this. But
It feels like an MMO for sure. You got to commit hard.
Well, and it has like the sandbox mode was really fun too, because you can just jump in and build stuff if you want to, and like dick around for an hour and then you're done. You know.
But there's a dark side. I'll twist it. Yeah. Because every now and then when like a game like this happens where people are like, oh, we have a goodwill with this game, or like there's just recently when Splitgate where like the servers got hit and everybody was like, it's a charming game, give them a chance. And it's like, well, wait, why are we giving this game a chance when some other popular thing, their servers failed, and then we'll dump all over that and, you know, drop hate reviews and have them have to take this uphill battle to try to get mostly positive on Steam. Do you think at all this is contributing to the idea that maybe developers might have where they're like, oh, we don't have to finish our game? Oh, great. You know, we can just release this weird thing, get enough headlines so that we're kind of known as this game that has to fix itself. We fix the game. We get, you know, we have 3, 4, 5 years, you know, to maybe do it if we're getting enough income.
Well,
I
I
don't-
think that's why.
Do you think it sends that message at all?
I think that's why more and more games have come out as early access since this happened. Because like this game came out, it didn't come out in early access.
Right. Star Citizen still has not launched.
Right.
It might never launch.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a huge risk to take, thinking that like, oh, we could turn, like, if it's wrong, we could like turn this around, and like how much it's going to take to claw back just to getting to slightly positive in the in that
positive,
chart.
yeah.
I mean, the cautionary tale is like more recently is Cyberpunk. It's like sometimes you won't be able to recover from this, and that's generally how it actually goes. Like a lot of companies, like the higher ups to be, will be like, cut our losses and run. Like we're not like committing to this. I think with Hello Games and some of the other past success stories where they've turned it around, it's that whole company's or the studio's reputation was on the line. If you want to continue this company, this studio, you must make this right. Otherwise, everyone leave and go find other jobs somewhere. And as you saw, Hello Games is making and has released other games since. And this coming around, I think it helped turn around that image thing. So even if they didn't get necessarily the positive reviews, I think all the headlines the last few years for No Man's Sky have just been, hey, they're working really hard. People are kind of like happy about the new changes. They're really excited. It's finally realizing that. But again, I never thought that was the plan. You know, no one in right mind would think that was like how they planned this all out to play out. But man, that was never a guarantee. Even with all that hard work, that they would get back to this point. So yeah, and like I don't think that's what it is. I think it's the other mentality is that hey, we sell a bunch of copies up front and then we'll say we'll fix it later. That's the thing. Or you go to early access where like we are really worried about this and we're unsure, but if we just put in early access, we'll get that feedback and we might have a better sense of direction with what we need to take this game. No Man's Sky would have been one of those. It should have been like an early access game. They should have done something like that. And I think they would have avoided some of the pitfalls they dealt with. They would have got that feedback like, hey, you really need this in this game. You really need to be doing that. And
yeah, it's just such an equation that is fascinating to examine. Just like how many betas should you have? How early can people get like their hands on the game? Like how obsessed I was with Valheim for a little bit, and like how they're like, this is the first time anybody's getting their hands on this. Like we have all sorts of ideas of like stuff we want to add, and like I'm already bounced off the game. Like I'm already like I can't play anymore. So
Right.
Well, and I think about Sea of Thieves because they had 2 or 3 betas, whatever, and then I think the game came out. I don't think it came out as early access,
Right,
but
no, it
like,
didn't.
yeah, I remember during the betas, we had said to each other like, "Wow, this is a really great foundation. I can't wait for the full game when all the content is added."
Yeah.
And then it came out, and it was like, "Oh, that was just the game. That's just it." So it can backfire too, like that.
But Sea of Thieves had a very similar arc.
Yeah,
as No
it
Man's
did,
Sky,
yeah.
Where it's like everyone was like, well, yeah, there's not really anything here, but they kept adding to it.
And it's great.
the best
now.
content I've played in Sea of Thieves is like the last thing that we just did.
Yeah. We
Still
gotta
gotta
finish that.
Dude, we have so many things we need to finish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta
Yeah,
get to the end.
it's a weird thing. I think it works. I think it works better with something that's single player, or not single player, but cooperative. When you're playing together with other people.
Avengers is going through it right now. They're trying.
They're
year
trying.
2 roadmap now, just
Yeah.
constantly really upfront with the community, constant updates.
When you
A
think about
lot of war
Avengers,
tables.
You think about Avengers and you think about Anthem, like it doesn't
Right.
always happen.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, I think another one.
I feel like Avengers has already supported it more than Anthem
Right.
ever did.
Oh,
though.
Anthem gave up. it
Yeah,
seems
yeah.
like.
But I think, in comparison to Valheim, Grounded is also in early access, and like that was a cool game, and like I'd love to keep playing it. And I know that they're adding more to that game, but I don't hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear people talking a whole lot about it. You'll see the devs make an update here or there.
Still in early access, you said?
Yeah, it's still in early access.
I'm sure when it launches,
So
it'll get a huge
I'm
push.
curious whether when it hits 1.0, whether it will make a splash or people will just be like, yeah, I tried that out a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Don't really need to go back.
Yeah.
It's a fun game, definitely
Yeah,
a little rough around the edges, but
yeah. Trying to find that stuff that's underground is like, what is going on?
But easy, for a game like this to kind of miss milestones because you just aren't keeping track of it, and so you don't know like, has it been 5 years? Did they have a big update? So I think like getting past this infamously review bombed game, getting to a point where most people think it's all right at this point. Well done, Hello Games. Well done, No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Also this week, Don't Nod is implementing Frog.
Frog.
That's a statement. That's news.
Yeah.
If you're not catching up, Don't Nod all caps is implementing Frog all caps. More specifically, the fully remote organization scheme, which basically means they're working from home and they figured out a method to do it, and they're gonna run with it, and they want to rub it in everyone else's faces.
Yeah. So
by giving it a name.
The basic explanation is that essentially any worker can decide whether they're going to be a remote worker or an in-office worker, and they will provide them with the space and the equipment and the furniture that they need to do that. And then remote workers, when they need to come into the office, they'll have little extra workstations that they can sit down at. And then, people that work in the office, likewise, you can kind of go back and forth, not like constantly
Right.
between those two roles. But yeah,
saw
those are both options for you.
I saw they voted on it, and it was like over 80% of the employees voted for this.
Frog, baby.
Frog, baby. Speedrunners can now make Link just fly in Breath of the Wild. Stamina is like a big thing. If you're trying to like go airborne, you gotta like launch him, or if he's gliding, he's like running out of stamina. He just fly now. He just does not use stamina. It's called bow lift smuggling or sky sliding. BLS sliding is what they said. It stood for bow lift smuggling, or they just say sky sliding. It's just with the popular.
Bow lift is an older glitch that they used. I think.
Kind of looks like he's riding like a witch. Kind of look like he's on a broomstick. He just kind of crazy.
Smugglers.
4 years later, still learning like crazy tricks about that game. Big Brain Academy Brain v Brain announced for the Switch. Launches on December 3rd. Not as big as the Sony news that dropped this week, but Nintendo's still announcing things.
Wait, what were those DS ones?
So there's Big Brain Academy
Age.
and there's Brain Age. There were separate series
Okay.
that were out around the same time.
Cool. Brain cool.
2 tidbits from this week in uncomfortable legal news. Paradox Interactive developer has been accused of bullying and gender discrimination, and Tripwire Interactive CEO John Gibson stepped down after making unpopular comments on Twitter. The UK Advertising Standards Authority told Cloud Imperium that develops Star Citizen to clarify quote-unquote concept ships. This is how crazy Star Citizen has gotten. They're selling ships that don't exist.
What?
Concept ships.
Whoa.
And I'll bet, and like the thing is, a lot of people that play Star Citizen like live this game. They know what that is. They understand. They
Yeah.
read the fine print. They know what concept ships is. But the Advertising Standards Authority kind of stepped in. They were like, clarify that a little bit
Nice.
more, so that your average consumer that might not know they're buying air is buying air. Good old Star Citizen pushing the limits. On Tuesday, September 28th, the Monster Hunter Orchestra concert will be live streamed. If you want to check that out. Mark your calendars. Oreo and Pokemon announced a new line of Pokemon cookies. Lego and Nintendo announced a Super Mario block set. It's the yellow block with
Mario
the stuff.
64 in particular.
Mario 64 specifically, yeah. Tencent and NetEase's value suffered a stock sell-off, which is like, I don't know, maybe they can survive a hit. Yeah, it's finally some bad news for both these companies following a Chinese gaming regulation scare. People think they might start to pass some regulations, but have not yet, but the stock market likes to freak out about things before they've officially happened. And it's not necessarily gaming related, but I like Matrix 4, man. That happened this week. And I said to Huber, and I'm calling it right now, Neo's going to be in Fortnite. Somebody's going to be in Fortnite.
Neo,
Morpheus is going to be in Fortnite.
Keanu already is as John Wick. in
Somebody,
Fortnite,
yeah.
So,
That'll be a trailer, both of them. Huh? Neo,
yeah.
one guy's guns and
Yeah.
fighting.
Really good taunt. He like does this and all the bullets fall off him. Yeah. It's really cool.
Everybody, everyone battle royale shooting at him. He's just collecting all the bullets. Could be fun. It is now time for Love and Respect.
Love and respect.
Jones, you know what I love about The Matrix is that the franchise paused. It paused. It hasn't been
So many.
it hasn't been hyped up
Yeah.
with like comics and shows and movies and games for the last 20 years. Like
Right.
it stopped.
Yeah.
And now it's back. It's
Yeah.
just we're ready. We're
It's
ready
sad
to jack
for
in.
fans, but then it's, that's why it's hard not to be excited about a Silent Hill or something like that, because you're like, probably won't come back. But if it did,
Yeah.
it'd be so good. Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Mm-hmm.
Because those last two films are not good. From Cody Spencer.
Harsh.
Will we see Hazelight's next game at the Game Awards? What do you want to see from Hazelight? If they make another couch co-op game, how can they continue to push the genre? Hazelight, of course, many things, but It Takes Two, which Blood and I both played together and was fantastic. And they just keep showing up. That'd be fun, but here's an IP we did not know they were working on. Yeah. Didn't really have expectations before we played it, and it just a basket of wonderful surprises, that game.
Yeah.
New IP or
Something
something else?
I would think that it would be most likely a new IP. But yeah, I feel like unless they're getting so big that they're starting to run two teams, I think it would be too soon to see their next thing. I'm sure that there's a fair chance that Ferris will be there and he'll be cursing up a storm to promote It Takes Two.
It's not the same though. Keeley really wants to capture that magic again, and it's just not. I even think like the person writing the trailers is like, do I even lean into it again? It's all right, we're done,
But anyways,
Sure. I think that bit's passed.
yeah, he'll be up there. He'll give some crazy acceptance speech. She'll have to drag him off the stage. But I think it's probably too soon for them to talk about the next game. But the thing I love about what they've done so far is it's all been very creative. It's all been very out of the box. They'll do one thing and then they'll do something very different. So yeah, I'm almost more in favor of them not doing a sequel because who knows what else they can come up with.
I feel like in today's market, I'm not saying I want this, but I feel like a business move would be a game set in the Brothers universe. going back to that, then you can hype up Brothers,
Maybe remaster.
remaster that, sell that, get people invested in like your entire catalog. Could easily see
Yeah.
some Brothers game.
Brothers is so good.
And I remember being at E3 behind the scenes with Ferris showing that off.
So
at,
sick.
appointment.
Such a sick game.
Or before all this.
Oh, that's so sick.
It was like brand new
Yeah.
and like,
Dude. Now look where
Left
we
an
are with that.
impression,
Yeah.
I remember getting drunk with Joseph Ferris at the Game Awards in person when we used to go to the person thing.
Well, I mean, that's what's so funny about him is because, like, the passion is so genuine. You know, it's
Too
a lot.
genuine.
It's honestly a lot like Huber because he
That's
will
amazing.
pass
Yeah,
you
yeah.
at E3, and if he
you.
recognizes you, he will stop you and he will talk to you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
I love pointing at people.
That was my fault. Sorry.
okay. That's how, yeah. So yeah, that's just the kind of person he is. It doesn't matter whether there's a camera on him or not. So
Also, in the age of $70 games, microtransactions, live service nonsense, you know, you bought this game, here's a free version for your friend, you know, like,
Yeah.
and that's something they probably
And
can't
it
go back on,
worked.
right? Right.
And it worked.
Yeah.
EA sold so much of that game.
Yeah. But they can't go back on that. That's kind of like their brand
thing.
now, you know, their thing. But something, yeah, not a lot of people have been like, we'll do that too. You know, like doesn't happen.
Because
Kinda-
does it have
it's rare.
online co-op?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, that's how we played
That's
it.
good.
And it works really well. And again, just that game is, I feel bad. I wonder if they're going to do something like totally dark, you know, and it's just like, you know, some parent maybe
I mean,
played
there's
that with
some
their
parts in It Takes
played
Two
It
that are
Takes
totally
Two, yeah,
dark.
with their teenage kid, and it's just like, oh, the Hazelight made a new game. And it's like, no, this one's like a detective noir, and there's decapitations. It's not it's a different.
Also, another thing that I think is very noteworthy about It Takes Two is that it doesn't dumb things down for the sake of co-op. It's a challenging game,
Yeah.
especially in the boss fights.
Like, you got to hit your targets, a lot of platforming, a lot of like hold one button while you do another thing. A lot of you like jumping over something and like you were dying if I didn't throw the thing out to catch you. And I nailed it every time. From Sam Joven, was cautiously optimistic about Tales of Arise launching this week, but your review pushed me to pre-ordering. When I was presented with which edition to buy, however, I couldn't help but shell out the extra cash for the version with all the extra costumes. Pre-order bonuses can be a mixed bag, so my question to the panel is this. What are your favorite pre-order bonuses? Whether it was an in-game item or physical collectible, and were they worth it? I got nothing.
Gold Zelda cartridge in
Yeah.
64.
Winner,
That's
winner.
like-
chicken dinner.
Was that a pre-order bonus?
No,
It was so
but
limited,
it was,
though, you
yeah,
needed
to know what you were
had
doing.
a hard chance of getting
It was
it.
presented as that. Like I remember for Ocarina of Time having to go like get the parents to put down the money in advance at Best Buy because they were the ones running it where I live. So I remember people showing up that day asking for it, and like they're like, nope, we all went to pre-orders already and stuff like that. So yeah, Majora's Mask had a similar one, but I don't think it was like as.
It had the
honestly-
lenticular label.
yeah,
Yeah,
it wasn't as like big of a deal. But no, what are some other crazy ones? The Wind Waker came with the Ocarina of Time Master Quest.
Oh yeah,
That was a big one.
got that.
The only way to like at the time to
Oh,
play
Master Quest,
like
yeah.
Master Quest.
Yeah.
So like people ran out and bought that
Yeah.
because you could get it in advance because the game was coming out till later, but you could go then and there to like your GameStop and like here's your copy of like that was cool getting like a pre-order bonus that far in advance. Like something like that was really awesome.
That is sick.
What did they do where they had also put like I think there was like a separate disc or whatever that had some of the older Zelda games for GameCube, but I forget.
Oh,
what it
that was
for.
the Zelda Collector's Edition, but you got that through one of a variety of ways. Like you could resub to Nintendo Power to get it. You could buy the Collector's Edition like GameCube that also came with it, and then there were a few other ways, but that wasn't actually a pre-order bonus. I think for
Got it.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really pre-ordered in any
Was it pre-order?
real particular fashion lately.
Was it pre-order or just buying it? I feel like there were some sick AF skins for Batman Arkham Asylum, Jones. I feel like if you pre-order that,
I remember them all being after the fact.
Yeah.
Or coming out. Yeah, they were like part of some version, and
Yeah,
then it
maybe
was
it was
like
just versions.
a year later we got it. You know,
Yeah.
I do remember
for a
when
couple
Arkham.
a lot of those look real stupid to me. Like he's just a big beefy Batman, and so there's only a particular look that he can pull
Dark
off.
Knight Returns
So like Batman
fits
Beyond was
so
like,
well.
"Wah!" You know, it was
Yeah.
like super,
Yeah.
you know, like football player Gears of War,
Yeah.
Batman Beyond. It was like that's the exact opposite of the physical description. of that
Dark Knight
character.
Returns worked perfectly. That was the one I always rocked.
Yeah.
So sick.
Arkham City was during the weird like anti-used game period. Remember, to where like you had to have a code for Catwoman.
Catwoman. Oh my god.
So like I remember. I think I had to just buy that or something because I was just using the game trailer's copy. You know, like
it's essential, dude. You need
it
that.
was so ridiculous that
Whole
whatever
subplot.
2 or 3 years that they were doing that stuff.
I
she can
can't
kill someone
remember
on
if
that.
it
Love
was the pre-order bonus or the special edition or what with Dragon's Dogma. I think it might have been the pre-order, but like if you didn't have a certain version of the pre-order or whatever, you like didn't get like the infinite fairy stone or something like that. Like it changed gameplay, like fast travel. I know that if you played the original version, you got it in the Dark Arisen version, but that game had some weird stuff like that like really made gameplay better.
Any pre-order or version of a game now that includes like early access, like you get like a week in
have a lot of
advance.
those.
I think that's the new thing. It's like they finally found one that's like
It's
people
hard
really
to
will pay up
resist,
for.
especially for like MMOs and multiplayer games. Like hop into Battlefield a couple days early or
Sonic
something.
Colors just did it.
Yeah, most of EA's games are doing that.
I remember they had
Those feel
some.
so slimy, but they're so hard not to buy into.
Yeah, that's not my favorite. Just like
God.
that's might be one of the worst.
Yeah.
I waited to buy Odyssey Huber until like right before Christmas, and they had a sale where they dropped like the biggest version of Odyssey down to just 60, down to the what you would pay for the normal thing. So I was like,
Good
oh,
DLC.
okay, fine, I'll like buy all this stuff. And it was like such a strange, like in many ways great, in many ways super skeevy, like Assassin's Creed experience where it's just like, they kept reminding me like, remember you bought that thing? And like, oh yeah, okay, oh, here's this new thing. And the two things that were funny about it were this experience bonus that I kept being like, it's not a big deal. And like 5 hours in, I'm like, I'm glad I got that experience bonus. And or got a discount on it. And it's always funny to me with a game like Assassin's Creed where you'll unlock some like crazy outfit that's not level blocked. So you'll start this story where it's just like, Cassandra, you've always been my child. And I'm just like all decked out, like,
Armored
what's
up.
up?
Yeah.
Just starting out in the world, gold-plated visor, like machine gun. Like, not really, but
So funny.
you know, sometimes those don't work. Sometimes you don't want to put on that outfit right away. You want to build up to it.
You know what it was? Maybe was the Wayne Manor combat room was the pre-order. There was something there.
Or
Damn
a bunch
it!
of extra ones. Or
There's
something.
something there in Arkham.
Damn it!
Corrections will tell us.
From Andrew Treherne, I like to talk about maps. I think video game map design is both hugely important and not talked about nearly enough. While they vary wildly between genres in terms of utility, I think map design is something designers probably spend a good amount of time discussing. The amount of information given on a map greatly influences how we play games. Some open world games give players a ton of information on the map. Some are fairly sparse. Some games show you the whole map at the start of the game, and some slowly unlock as you progress. Metroidvania maps are some of the most useful in how they show just how and where the world is connected. Conversely, some games deliberately don't give you a map, or only give you maps of certain areas. My question, what do you like in a map? Are there any games in which the map stands out?
Are we talking about like a multiplayer map?
I think
No.
traditionally it's what you think of, but I think he just means anything. He mentions open world
like
games
a
and stuff.
map.
You bring up the
Yeah.
menu,
They're talking about the map.
and
The
like
Got
you see
it.
the info on the
Okay,
map.
Just
sorry
when you
about
inevitably
that.
fall through the environment and look up, that thing.
My brain was syndroming like DE Dust, DE Aztec.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
No, they're talking about like
Maps.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night. You push select and see
Yeah,
the map.
yeah.
Which, I mean, when you talk about maybe pet peeves of things that are in those games when you're dealing with the map and like you're having, you're essentially just like walking the edges to like try to get like every little
Yeah, baby.
piece of things filled in.
Yes.
Which is like I definitely get into, but sometimes you get those annoying bits where like I just need to double jump in the right spot to get that corner.
Very important.
But like those maps are so iconic. I met a woman who had the Norfair or whatever Super Metroid tattooed on her arm, the map, and I was like, "Well, you're the coolest person I've ever seen."
Souls games never have maps, right?
No maps.
No.
No map.
That to me is one of the biggest, like the hardest things just to get used to.
The map is
Because
in the heart.
I totally see people saying this, and it's a very purist approach to exploring a world. But I've talked to a lot of open world fans even that'll just say like, oh, mini maps, they just kind of get in the way for me, and I don't like mini maps. I love mini maps. Like I want to know as much as I possibly can. I want to know where I'm at.
I played Breath of the Wild with the HUD off, and I really preferred it.
Sure.
You could turn that off.
But you can look at a map. You can go and look at a map.
Yeah, we were just talking about Forspoken, and just like feels kind of sparse, but maybe
Yeah.
we're in the wrong areas.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting with Breath of the Wild that they did differently than, say, like a Metroidvania map is when they added that tracker
Yeah.
to show where you've been that way. So, you know, as long as you like activated the towers and stuff, you could see the whole map. But then later on, you could, you know, kind of trace your way, like how you've gone through that world, and then kind of see where you might have, you know, missed that way, rather than it's just like, rather than just having these weird dark splotches here and there.
It still blows my mind that worked retroactively. Like,
Yeah.
I had beaten that game,
know.
and then that update happened, and I was like, oh, I could see everywhere I've ever gone. Like, why were you tracking this already? It's so weird.
Damiani, do you think there's like a whole legion of like speedrunners that just like broke out in hives when they saw that tech? They were like, no, why are you showing me this? No. Like they'd put Breath of the Wild down, and then we're like, no.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see. Just because it shows your habits, I think was kind of interesting to see. Like, for me, it was more useful to see, maybe to compare it to someone else, be like, I went this way and I kept going back and forth here. Yeah, it's interesting though that Bullet points it out, because it also could be used as a tool to show, like, even though you've gone to this area, you never went over like this hill or something like that. So, especially if we weren't playing with the mini map like Isla, it's whoa, you might have missed this whole segment over here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And finding shrines, it was really important, because
Yeah.
I had missed like 3 or 4 of them.
I like the maps in Metro. You like, take it out.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
very.
That's a cool
very
effect.
cool.
It's like in game.
I'm a fan of physical paper whenever that's represented. When stuff is lit by the in-game map, like horror games will do that.
Sea of Thieves is epic for that. Like,
Oh, you can
have
watch
to-
other people read
You have to
it?
show it to other people.
Yeah.
You can move
That's-
the map around and show it to other people. It's really
that.
good.
I'm definitely a fan too of holding things back. You know, like, you know,
Fill it in as you go.
One of those, you know, one of the issues that you run into a lot with open world games, especially with Ubisoft's games, which they've tried to dial back on, is it's just sometimes like just everything will just scatter across your map. Like you talk to a quest giver, and then all of a sudden it's just everywhere. It just puked out. And I think there's a lot to be said about just that sort of natural sense of discovery, and like looking at the map and saying, it's like, this area, just by the way it's designed, looks interesting. Let me go over there and see if there's anything over there. Whereas if you just icon the whole thing, then you're just like, well, there's nothing there. I guess I won't
Yeah.
bother.
Shout out to Silent Hill 2, where if a door is locked, you'll scribble out
Love that.
that door.
Yes,
I
that's
love
a really
that.
awesome map. That Silent
that.
Hill 2
Love
map. Yeah.
the Silent Hill 2 maps. I'm
10
playing
out of 10.
Tormented Souls because Hubert was yelling at me about it, and I'm
That
enjoying
map
it so
is
far.
tough.
But that map is
It's
challenging.
worthless.
That is a challenging map.
I don't understand it.
Well, it like sort of highlights the room you're in. It like gets brighter.
Yeah.
But like you don't have a UR here unless you look at the map versions that are on the walls.
Yeah,
in some
you
of the
told
rooms.
me that.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
a pro tip.
Because your map doesn't say specifically where you are except for like the room.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like if you're in a big hallway, you're in this whole area. Like where am I? You know, it's really and it does not mark locked doors. It'll mark where like a key door is. So it does some of that.
Yeah.
But yeah. And also Resident Evil. I know you don't like these, Hubert, but I really
I don't like
appreciate these still exploring or completed.
It's
But I
too-
do wish you could turn it on and off.
Yeah, I wish like Madhouse or like
Hard
the
didn't have
survival
it.
modes
Oh.
would turn
Yeah.
that off because it's just too strong.
Yeah.
I think it's just too
Yeah, when I played
strong.
through Village, it was hilarious
Every
because I
room,
just got to this
like-
point where like I would not move on
Yeah.
until I changed the color of that
Yeah.
room.
Well,
Yeah.
and some were
It's
just dumb
so
pixel
strong.
perfect gems that you were just like, oh,
Right.
it's like, yeah. Although that was the one thing I was going to bring up was it was a pleasure downloading that map into my brain. You know, going on my like 5th playthrough of
Yeah,
Village,
yeah.
and like starting to actually, which I was just rushing through it, but like stopping and smelling the roses, and I would like look across a canyon and be like, oh, I can see what's his name's factory from over here. That's cool. Like, love that stuff. Even when stuff's not open world, when they like, you know, you are kind of taking hallways to get from here to there. If you can still establish like where I'm at in relation to other places
Yeah.
I've been, that's a big deal. That goes a long way.
And I think that there's a real art to finding a way to present a map in, you know, kind of a manner like you're saying with Metro or something that feels natural, that feels kind of artistic, that feels like you're looking at like a hand-drawn map, while also not being so obscured that you can't use it.
Yeah.
Because I've had that other thing too. It's like, okay, well, the map says this over here, but then I walk this way and there's a dead end. So, like, what do you want me to do?
Shout out though to like the experience of a mental map. Like Jones, you said like Souls doesn't have a map, but to me it's also like part of the fun
Memory,
to like memorize that and like put the map in your mind. Or like in the old school days of Riven or like those dungeon crawlers where you're like on graph paper yourself, like making the
Right.
I love that.
I always resent games for not having maps, but then it's like so satisfying when you're like, aha, I found the door.
There's like a hand-drawn one I cannot place, and I know as soon as we stop filming, it's going to come to me.
I'm a sucker for that.
I know.
I like when they physically mention in an RPG, can you mark that for me? And then it's like, thank you.
Yeah, let me mark that on your
Little
map.
notes. It's time for bets. Next week's bet, Deathloop, launches on September 14th. Next week, before the podcast, hopefully, I'm going to read the last 10 reviews on OpenCritic. How many times will I see the word Juliana, Julianna, a.k.a. Juliana Blake, the adversarial multiplayer character opposite the protagonist? Michael Huber, how many times? In 10 reviews.
30 times.
Okay.
30 times.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
Damiani.
mention her name, I feel like, at least once. I
Right.
feel like 10 is the absolute minimum. That's where my head is at.
Michael Damiani.
Speaking of that, 10.
10. So one in each.
Okay. Isla Hank.
22.
Nice.
Nice.
Okay. It's scattered. Damn, ooh.
18.
Okay. 26. We're all over the place.
Oh,
This is
wow.
great.
Wow.
This is great.
Got the high.
You got the high,
Got
though.
the
Yeah.
high.
Got the
Yeah.
high, but you might have been a
It's
little
a high.
too
It's
high.
a little much. It's a little
Yeah,
much.
so I
Hopefully
think we're good in the
someone
middle.
uses it like 10 times in one.
Okay. Last week's bet, Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, launched on September 7th. It is now
There
2
it
days
is.
later when we're recording this. When we record the podcast now, how many people are going to be watching it on Twitch? Ben Moore bet 9,000. Michael Huber bet 666, the sign of the beast.
Number of the beast.
Daniel Bloodworth bet 431. Isla Hink bet 12,000, and I bet 5,000.
Oh, the showcase.
And I'm gonna look it up right
probably
now.
Boosted the numbers.
Yeah.
They just showed
Boost it.
Yeah.
Talk amongst yourselves as I look it up.
That showcase boost.
Was that everybody's bets? Did we miss anybody?
That was everybody.
Yo, is
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
yo
Ben
top,
Moore 9,000, Michael Huber 666,
There it
Daniel
is.
Bloodworth
Okay, okay.
431,
Top-
Isla 12K, me 5K.
8.5. Okay.
Well, I'm just
top 5 or
I have
top
it
10
here.
coolest things? Blocking bullets with a sword.
Yeah, I love that.
Top 5? It's pretty badass.
so that is. Oh, it's Ben. All right, yeah, 'cause
Here's
he's at
Ben.
9K.
Ben nailed it.
It's right there.
Ben watches a lot of Twitch.
All right. Giving them the win. Bringing our scores to Jovial Penguins 24.
I'll tell you one thing. It's a cruel, cruel world.
Vociferous Beavers 16.
Nom, 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 nom.
Boy, ever since you did that Danny DeVito line, you've really remembered to get the quote. When it was just Penguin, you kind of dropped out for a little bit there, but now you've really done a lot of preparation now for the podcast. And I really appreciate it, Alan.
You're welcome.
Yeah, because you used to forget, and
was
I feel
that
bad.
trolling or was that genuine? I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
It's a genuine troll.
A genuine troll.
Let me tell you about patreon.com/Easy Allies. Somebody in the comments, somebody who's been hanging out Easy Allies, I'm not going to call out names, on last week's podcast, was like, there are more love and respect questions? What? What am I missing? Yes. On the Patreon version of this podcast, there are 2 bonus love and respect questions if you're just listening to the public version. Still a darn good podcast. You still get, an hour and a half or more of quality video game news and general entertainment,
I'm bummed we're done.
starring role and whatnot. I'm always bummed.
I'm so bummed.
And I let Huber know just a couple days ago he's going to be on the podcast this week. His reply, cool.
It's double cool. It's
Double
cool.
Double cool. Yeah. But yes, if you go to patreon.com/easyallies for just $1, you can get a bunch of awesome stuff, a bunch of exclusive shows that we do. And then on Sunday, when you check out the podcast, you can get 2 bonus love and respect questions and no ads. No pre-roll ads at the beginning of the podcast, no ads in the middle of there. Some people like those ads. Some people, I did get a comment as well on last podcast. It was like, I like the way Jones does those ads. Hopefully I never lose that exclusive skill. On patreon.com/Easy Allies, we have our shout out tier. It's a big old tier, and we have 4 people at it that we deeply respect and love a ton. We're going to shout them out right
And
now.
there's open slots for that.
Open slots. Go check it out.
Open season.
Shout out to Elfanis, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, Caleb Togi Crawford, and Nick. Shout out.
Shout out.
Wow.
That would be, because Huber was here, that would be you, Michael Damiani, that is in the Ben Moore seat. You can wrap up this podcast if you would like to. You get to promote any Easy Eyes video you'd like to promote. You get the final word on anything you disagreed with.
All right, Huber. No, just kidding.
Settle in.
No.
Settle on in.
You know what?
Or you get to sign off with your trademark sign
I
off.
will promote.
Any and all
check
of it.
Let's know how hard you worked on this, Huber. That Life is Strange True Colors review.
Yeah.
Shout out to Isla for that cut, those sound ups. Isla, like, so much love and respect.
Thanks.
I was so grateful.
My
for that.
pleasure.
It was awesome.
Final thoughts. Bloodworth, please use Homer the cat as a thumbnail. If it's not there, you still have time to change it for our PlayStation Showcase 2021 reactions.
Make them HD.
Yeah, Homer the
Getting
cat.
comments and like, when are you putting it up? I'm like, oh, YouTube. I don't know.
All right,
Whenever YouTube decides to do it.
adorable cat. Until next time, may the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.
Drift compatible.
Yeah.
Like sharing it.
Gollum trying to sneak up on you? No, hey, Gollum right here. Like alert.
This one's for you, Morv.